Hello, everyone. Welcome to Zen and Fanfics. Today we are featuring What If Deku Reincarnates as Spider-Man? The story is written by Springtrap212332 on Wattpad. Before we start, please like and subscribe for more content. Now let's dive into the story. This boy was never told the words, but he embodies them nonetheless, a being said, even going so far as to sacrifice his own power to defeat his foe permanently. I think he may be fit for it, a web shot from the being into that universe. Ghostly and unseen by anyone to latch onto the dying Izuku Midoriya, who in his final blow against Shigaraki took the very core of his quirk and placed it in his fist, using almost every ounce of power within it in that final blow, and destroying his right arm, shoulder, and torso to raw energy that exploded in that ringed shockwave. It latched onto the soul of the dying boy and yanked him out of the body, drawing him into the depths of the web. Izuku Midoriya opened his eyes, feeling the pain had vanished, and found himself in a dark place. He looked down, seeing himself standing on a platform made from spiderwebs. Where am I? Izuku muttered, feeling lethargic and tired, but alert and tense of his surroundings. A strange combination. No need to be afraid, kid, but you're dead, a voice from above said. Izuku looked up and saw a guy hanging upside down with a web between his feet. If I was dead, I doubt that I'd end up wherever here is, Izuku said, on guard. Yeah, well, I snatched your soul before it could pass on. See, I've been watching you for a while now. My name is Anansi. I'm the African god of spiders, and I want to offer you a deal. Izuku blinked. You realize that it would be very easy to replicate this with an illusion, correct? Izuku asked. Yes, but your instincts agree with me. My offer is fairly simple, though. You match the sort of person I look for when finding someone to wield my powers, Anansi said. You're selfless, kind. You were willing to sacrifice your one shot at being a hero to stop Shigaraki in your life in the process. You understood that when it came down to it, you had a responsibility, and followed through with it. Wield your powers, Izuku asked, looking skeptical. No way, in under 2 years, I have 2 very powerful figures offer me power. What's the reason? Anansi smirked. I will be sending you Ice Sky style to another universe where my choice has been involved in an accident as a baby. His soul had departed before I could stop it, and now that universe is in need of a Spider-Man. The future needs a Spider-Man for the timeline to work out correctly. And if it doesn't, certain mortal forces will take matters into their own hands and screw things up. Izuku pinched his nose. I'm going to need a few things. Basic universal laws of physics understanding, a sort of timeline key point warning that can tell me if I can't interfere or if I have to interfere, and the ability to pick my powers. You probably have them picked out for me, but it's also an important thing the powers I get don't clash with my own morals or desires of what sort of hero I want to be. That's perfectly understandable. I was planning on the first 2 anyways, some webs SHD from the darkness to form a screen that gained a holographic screen in it. Izuku read through it and hummed. Very few knew that Izuku was an avid anime watcher. Spider powers. Proportional strength and durability of a spider. Superhuman agility. Enhanced flexibility. Enhanced balance. Superhuman reflexes. Enhanced speed. Wall crawling. Scopulae hairs. Organic webbing. Age progressive mutation. Spider sense. Enhanced healing. Enhanced senses. Night vision included. Mating bond. Power transfer with mate. There. I didn't include many that would be overpowered. And while I wanted to add the venom shock, that isn't something I'd be using all that often, but for machines, Izuku explained. This note for the organic webbing. Could you further explain that? Anansi asked, curious. It means that I'll start without organic webbing. My physical abilities such as strength, healing, agility, and such will be stronger as I start in return, but after maybe 2-3 years, I would go through a power PBRTY that would give me that ability, Izuku explained. I also added the mate one because I have a sinking suspicion I'll be fighting enemies that will kill my friends and family. And after how badly that hurt in Japan, I want at least one person who can gain my powers to defend themselves. Anansi nodded, hiding how impressed he was as he followed the boy's thought process. What will you do before the spinnerets come in? Artificial webbing. I'm sure that's some sort of intrinsic knowledge every Spider-Man gets. If not, I'll figure it out. Izuku waved his hand. I've never studied chemistry, but it shouldn't be too complicated compared to some of the stuff scientists come up with. Fair enough. The universe is 199999. You will only remember your past life after your homecoming. The what dash. Izuku felt the web platform under him collapse. Fall 2016. Next thing he knew, he was on a beach. Remembering an entire life he'd lived in Japan, limping across the sand as he glared at the father of his date too. Homecoming. You dumb idiot. Peter glowered at him. I told you your wingsuit was overloading. What were you thinking? I thought you were trying to distract me. The man coughed through his words. Peter pulled him up and felt his ribs, using his wall-crawling ability to pull them where needed to set the bones. I'm also a hero. I look out for everyone, even my enemies. Peter scolded him as he sprayed webbing across the man's chest. Good news, no internal bleeding. Bad news, that means I don't have to take you to the hospital. Good news, that means you'll have a shorter recovery time. Bad news, that means you have to face your daughter sooner, because she's going to find out about your arrest. What arrest? The concussed man asked. Peter webbed him to a crate and wrote a letter. The one you'll have after the Stark security and police arrive. He walked away, holding his own ribs as he rushed away, already hearing the sirens nearing. Izuku's memories were quickly sorting themselves out before Peter's own, though technically neither were separate people. Peter was happy about the organic webbing he'll soon be getting. Peter finished sewing his new suit. After Stark had taken the other one back because of the fairy, which he was still pissed off by, he knew he couldn't handle crime in his old suit. Good thing was that he could sew from a ton of time fixing uniforms after middle school. Bad thing was hiding it from Aunt May. Good thing was that it was fairly easy. But he's now finished his new suit, designing it after the one Stark gave him. It was made from spandex and a pair of lenses he'd made with knowledge of support gear from spending time with UA's most insane support technician. His new web shooters were different from the Stark ones, which he'd taken apart one time to learn how they worked, and then put back together after noting down the engineering differences. They were connected to a pair of wrist bracelets he could wear. He'd have to come up with an excuse for them. Fitbit health monitor for his old asthma issue. He had suddenly said he was cured, could say he was concerned his body was at risk of regression, and made a pair of health trackers? Yes, that would fit. He had added a number of functions he'd learn about from May, his own classmates' support gear like Kaminari's disk launcher, and come up with on his own. Man, my head feels so much clearer with my full sets of memories. This is so simple compared to last time, Peter murmured to himself. I even thought to add multiple web types, but nowhere near the absurdity of Stark's suit. Just number 576 combinations is just too DMN many. 7 or 8 with wider parameters will suffice for most any situation. A number he'll work up to over time. Web swinging, zipline web, web shot, and a web spray, which was like a wider net-like version, are the 4 he expected to use the most. He also added the electric web and rebound web to bounce off objects once or twice for shits and giggles. But he'll have to work on those in the future. Peter pulled the mask on, activating a wireless connection to check his system work. He waited, soon seeing a green icon appear in his upper right vision as it linked in. It only took a few moments. Check complete. All systems functional at 100%, the automated program said. Lovely. He removed the mask and disconnected it. The door opened, and he hid the mask in a drawer, spinning around to look only to blink as he saw Happy. About time they tried reaching out to me. Let me guess, they wanted to do inventory, get everything to the new place, then set it up to look impressive beforehand, Peter thought to himself. Happy. Hey kid, I wanted to thank you for stopping Vulture. Really saved my butt there, the man said. Peter absently noted he had a paper bag with him. I didn't do it for you. Mr. Stark's tech is dangerous, and I needed to stop him from getting his hands on it, and possibly reverse engineering it, Peter said. Yeah, well, Tony wanted me to return this, and to bring you to the new headquarters, Happy said, holding at the bag. Peter took it and opened it, seeing the Stark suit inside. The Peter in him wanted to smile and gush, but the Izuku inside him was jaded, and wanted to hurl an insult at Happy. But while Happy had been dodging his calls for 2 months, he hadn't actually hurt him like Tony had. He was just a man who had the job of looking after a child shoved on him, without any input. So he shook his head and gave it back, holding back his anger. No thanks, Happy. If there was something Mr. Stark was right about, it's that if I'm nothing without the suit, I don't deserve it, he said, not noticing Happy's eyes widen in shock at his words. Besides, I've made my own new and improved one. Without all of the ridiculous levels of expensive tech in it, Peter pulled back his sleeves, revealing his new web shooters and fired a shot up, opening the same hatch where he'd hidden his first suit. Down came a rolling rack with the suit hanging on it. Shirt, pants, shoes, and gloves. He pulled a mask from the drawer and stuck it to the frame, which was basically multiple racks, so it could move like a roller door for the garage up in the ceiling. It's mostly spandex, but that also makes getting materials easy, and it's much simpler to repair. The tech is all in the mask, eyes mostly. A gas mask with miniature oxygen tanks and filtration for toxins, and a communication system, Peter explained. Not much compared to that thing, but it's more my style, Happy was staring at the new suit. There's a lot of blue. Felt like a change, Peter said. Anyways, you coming? Happy asked. Nah, Peter shook his head. Ask Karen to play the recording of what he said. You'll understand why I feel it's better I stay away from him for a while. Happy left the apartment deeply confused, but also concerned about what Peter had let slip. He needed to talk to Pepper. Peter eventually told May about being Spider-Man, before going out on another patrol. She took it better than he'd expected, at least until she explained herself. I already knew, or at least, I suspected heavily, she explained after telling Peter he could continue to be Spider-Man. But the only reason I'm letting you continue is because you actually told me yourself. If I'd stumbled on it, you can be sure I would have grounded you and put a stop to it. But you actually telling me means that you trust me. Does anyone else know? Peter nodded. Ned found out the day he came over to do the Lego Death Star set. And Mr. Stark actually came to offer the internship as a cover to recruit me in stopping Captain America and his little group. Don't worry, I don't have the internship anymore. We ended up having a pretty strong argument, he reassured her when she opened her mouth. I've been disillusioned by the man who I had hero worship for. Also, he told me Captain America had gone rogue with a mass murderer who used to be his friend back in the day. Not that the man was a brainwashed victim who had the location of others like himself that needed help. So yeah, I'm sticking to the city for the foreseeable future. Good. I'd rather not hear about you pulling another stunt like at the Needle. I mean, you jumped over a helicopter for goodness sake. She dash. Peter just wrapped her up in a hug. Spider-Man was swinging through the city when he was interrupted mid-swing. Kid, why are you blowing me off? Spider-Man barely managed to keep his shock from affecting himself and landed on a roof. Iron Man landed behind him, making him turn around as Tony stepped out of the armor. I have a neighborhood to protect. I can't just go off on Avenger missions, Peter answered. Yeah, but you told Happy that you wanted to keep your distance from me, Tony said. We had heated words after the ferry, during which you took away the suit to what? Ground me. That was never going to fly. And that led to me having to crawl my way out from under a diamond building after Toombs dropped it on me, Peter retorted. Just go away. Peter turned around and moved to leave, leaping to the edge of the roof. Oh, so that's it, huh? I give you a multi-million-dollar suit, and when you mess up, take it away as punishment. And you decide you're done with me? Tony called. It was never about the suit, Peter shouted back as he spun back around. It was trust. That suit was a sign that you trusted me and my skills in being able to hold my own in a battle where I could protect other people. And I do trust you. Tony shot back. Then why did you never call, huh? Peter's voice was a normal volume, but the hurt in it was clear to hear. After Germany, 2 months, I sent text to Happy. I was hoping you'd call, or even text about training opportunities, or actually set up a real internship. But no, all I got was radio silence. No calls, no texts, not even a message through the suit. Those functions were locked. Tony said, then why didn't you train me to unlock them? You treated me like a child, like a 5-year-old kid. Peter said, yes, I hacked the suit with my friend. Yes, we turned off the training wheels protocol. I didn't care it was there. What hurt was that you didn't even tell me. What? Tony blinked. Multi-million-dollar suit? Of course I was going to look through it. I knew there were going to be secrets and little functions you didn't tell me about. What matters to me is that you didn't even tell me, oh hey kid, there's a lot I've put in here, so it's locked onto the most basic functions, better than what you have now, but barely a % of what the suit can really do. Instead, you gave me the suit and sent me off without even activating the AI to train me if you weren't going to pay any attention into actually training me yourself. Peter kicked at a pile of bricks, the force of the kick sending one off into the distance. And Tooms, oh, that is one of my other issues. I tried to tell you what was happening. You blew me off, told me to sit tight and look after muggers and bank robbers. Newsflash, I found out about the weapons from a bank job. I had it handled. Tony waved off. Yes, but you didn't tell me. Peter shouted again. All I heard was, don't worry about it, kid. Go focus on the guys with bullets and knives like a good little boy. At no point did you say you were getting the FBI involved. And when I told Happy that the plane was the target, he laughed me off, so I had to do it myself. I broke all but 2 ribs, fractured my femur, and dislocated both arms. So I want to stay away before I rip your head off. It's even more logical when you remember I have the proportional strength of a spider. I could rip through your suits like a can of sardines, and you couldn't do a thing about it. Spider-Man leapt off the roof before Tony could respond, web swinging away. He left the shell-shocked man on the rooftop. He'd underplayed his injuries, if anything, but when he met Anansi, he'd sacrificed immediate organic webbing in return for buffed-up physical abilities, like healing, so that was a big bonus. A loud explosion had Spider-Man automatically swinging towards that direction, finding a guy coming out of a bank. Spider-Man landed on a street light and groaned. It was Shocker. Oh, of course it's him, he groaned. He reached back, grabbing an experimental gadget. He tossed it at the man, watching it bounce twice. It exploded, covering the man with webbing before he could react. Before he could recover from the surprise attack, Spider-Man swung in, bringing down a powerful blow to the helmet the guy was wearing and cracking it in 2. A second, much weaker blow knocking the man out. Here you guys go, he called, ripping the man up off the ground and webbing his arms together more securely once he removed the gauntlet he had on. Once the cops had the man, Spider-Man swung off, looking for more crime to handle. All right, web bomb has potential, but parts required are too difficult to procure. Maybe I could come up with an alternate version of it for my shooters? Peter asked himself, making notes on a paper after he finished homework. Damn, I wish Karen was here. She would have advice for me. He froze mid-scratch. I need a second opinion. Aunt May isn't really all that good with science. Ned either. But an AI. Yes, that would work, Peter mused. He immediately reached for his computer, opening it and running through the basic algorithms for what any old Siri or Alexa would have. Then went further, adding anything and everything he felt were required. He worked for days. Every moment he had spare time from patrols or schoolwork, he was on his computer programming. Omnidirectional processing algorithms. Self-automating programs within self-automating programs. 3 months he worked, pouring all of his knowledge and skills into this. He added over a dozen identity profiles within the code of the AI. Male and female, young and old. And from their different ethnicities of each age and gender. With different accents or voices. In these 3 months, he faced more villains, old and new. Shocker. Rhino was similar to Vulture in that he was using a high-tech suit. Scorpion was like Rhino and Vulture as well. Vulture made a return 6 weeks after Peter stopped Shocker at the bank. And his newest villain, Dr. Olivia Octavia, or Doc Ock. She was caused by Tony shutting down his weapon manufacturing. She hadn't been in the missiles or anything, but she was working on prosthetic limbs for soldiers. Without weapons, her entire team was let go, because of whatever reason, and had clearly spent the years working on high-tech prosthesis that led to 4 heavy-duty arms. Her situation was all the more tragic by the fact that her mind had been irreparably warped by the arms she has. They were connected by a mix of wires in her spine to connect them to her mind for control. They had an AI to help with that, but a control chip too that was meant to stop it from influencing her mind. The chip was destroyed by an accident, and now she's just a genius with a thirst for power and Spider BLD. But 5 villains, all wanting his BLD. At least Vulture was the only one who knew his identity. Shocker didn't seem to remember him, if he ever knew, and Tooms didn't seem to want to drag Aunt May into anything. Makes sense, criminal or not, he is a man who cares for family. But now Peter had a new thing to be concerned over. The 5 people that had gone to space a fortnight ago had come back and been in an isolated place for a week. Now they were back. Reed Richards, age 32, power, super stretching. Victor Von Doom, age 33, power, unknown if it exists. Ben Grimm, orange stone body, Johnny Storm, self-ignition. Susan Storm, age 20, power, force field/invisibility. Spider-Man swung up to the top of the building, climbing to the window of the kitchen and knocked. The only one here, Susan Storm turned around to see him. She came over and slid it open. Spider-Man, what are you doing here? I saw the news about the bridge incident. I was in the middle of a class at the time, so I'm a bit late. But I wanted to welcome you four to the world of mutates. She first looked embarrassed and concerned, then shocked, before settling on baffled. Welcome us to the world of mutates? What's a mutate? Oh, right. That's what I call people like us. Those who gain powers due to an alteration of their DNA. Figured I'd introduce myself and offer my experience in adapting to the new situation. Help with any concerns and stuff. Can I come in? Super strength is neat, but there's only so much my fingers can take. Oh, yes, come in. Come in. She moved out of the way, and Peter climbed in, folding backwards to plant his feet on the ground in a feat of flexibility no human could do. What do you mean by concerns, though? Well, I'm sure the big guy wants to change back, right? She nodded. I have extreme doubt on that being possible. What? A deep voice rumbled, and Peter spun to see the big rock man himself. We are mutates, Mr. Grimm, transformed at the genetic level by outward forces due to specific circumstances, Peter explained. I don't know exactly what happened up there, but I know what happened to me wasn't just a science experiment gone wrong. It was orchestrated by someone far more powerful than Thor and Hulk combined. I've met him. You've met a god? Susan asked. Yes. Anansi, the African spider god. The very first Spider-Man. Lots of information you don't need to know. Anyways, you were up there, because it was meant to happen. Peter turned back to Ben. You see your new physiological state as a monster, but you aren't. Do you thirst for BLD? Longing to rule the world? What? No. The man shot back in shock. Exactly. That would be a monster. Even the Hulk isn't a monster. Just a massive rage beast that gains power the more he rages. You just have stone skin, bone and organs. How did you dash? Peter cut Susan off. My mask has bioscanners. To identify injuries mid-fight, Peter explained. He shows up as being almost completely stone, and the remaining bit is BLD, full of rock as well, so I can't be changed back. Ben sounded defeated. You can, but you'll always feel like something is missing, Peter said, making Ben look up. This is who you are as a person, made physical, a strong, solid man, a rock for others to lean on, and a wall of protection. Change back, and you'll always feel lacking, or you'll choose to have it again willingly because you need to help someone. How are you so sure? Ben asked, looking a bit shocked. I had a short time my powers stopped working. One of my enemies poisoned me and my powers were down while my body was healing, Peter explained, remembering the horrific week. But I still went out and patrolled because that was who I was. I see trouble. I jump to help, usually without realizing it. You met a god. Peter looked back at Susan and gulped at the aura he could see around her. Yes, he's basically my sponsor. Gave me my powers because the universe needed someone with my powers and I fit what he wanted, Peter explained quickly, feeling a bit terrified by the aura. I suspect the same happened with you four in some way. Or this was always to happen but no being was behind it. Could be anything. But this is how things are, and I'm here to assist in your adapting to it. Another person entered, saw Peter, and facepalmed. What part of quarantine do you not understand? Reed Richards groaned. Another person entered, saw Peter, and facepalmed. What part of quarantine do you not understand? Reed Richards groaned. Hey, I asked to be let in, Peter said. I'm here to help. We don't need your help. We'll be back to normal soon, Reed said. You are normal, though, Peter said. A bit different, but this is who you are now. Why not embrace it a bit? This isn't normal, kid. You know, I think I could fix you too, Reed said, looking at Peter. I don't need fixing. I'm perfectly happy the way I am, Peter answered coolly. And surely you've thoughts about being able to reach across the lab and grab something while working on something delicate. Now you can. Besides, you could be far worse. Yeah, you could be like Ben, the fourth member of the group appeared. What are we talking about? Why you dash? Peter placed a hand on Ben's shoulder, holding him in his seat, which surprised the orange man. Calm. They could be like you, Peter answered. Your powers clearly work off excitement, and your emotions are on a hair trigger. It's obvious you are the weakest link of this group. Johnny looked at him in confusion and anger. Excuse me? You heard me. You treat this like a toy. You enjoy the power because it's fun. But you have no idea the risks your power has. Peter walked up to the man, glaring at him through his mask. Take that back or I'll set you on fire. The man's hand curled into a fist that was set alight. What's the hottest you can do? Supernova, Reed said. I could go hotter, and tried, Susan answered. Peter snorted. Supernova would kill everyone on Earth, and you try to go hotter? You and I are going to get along well. When you learn about holding back your powers, he backed off. Holding back? Johnny looked confused. Why would I do that? If you don't, you'll kill your sister, Peter said without looking back. Supernova would destroy the atmosphere. No atmosphere means she can't breathe. If she can't breathe, she dies. And that would be on you. He finally looked back to see his words had hit their mark. I live my life holding back. It's a pain, but you get used to it eventually. Peter leaned against the counter. When I first got my powers, they were weak, unstable. But I was breaking brass door handles, couldn't hold a glass. I left hand prints in metal. Now I can automatically adjust to using my phone without even thinking about it. But my powers are mutating, growing, constantly. Like yours will. It will be soon that all four of you are holding back to not hurt anyone. But that just means that if a threat arises that needs your attention, you can use your powers to stop it in massive feats of power previously unseen. Not filling me with a lot of confidence there, kid, Ben said. Enemies are coming. They're on the rise. And heroes are needed, Peter admits, rubbing his face through the mask. Heroes. With power to back them up. I don't expect all four of you to do it. But at least one of you will do it purely because it's fun. 3 people and a sentient rock man looked to the resident fire starter. What? He blinked. And he's going to need someone who can reel him in when he goes too far, Peter added. The only 2 I know could are you 2, he points at Ben and Susan. One is fireproof and the other his sister. Reed wouldn't really care enough. My point is, becoming a mutated merely gives you the powers that fit you at your core. This is what your personalities and heart are given form. You can't fight who you are. Peter swung into his room and removed his suit, changing quickly. His meeting with the 4 had gone rather well, pointing out advantages to their new powers and things they needed to change around the place for Ben's new finger size, a couple suggestions for the elevator to be upgraded and such. But now it was back to his AI. Peter got to it, filling everything in and wiring together. A bunch of hard drives he'd gotten from scrap heaps and second-hand stores to have required memory for the AI to properly grow for a while. And done. Remove wireless connection to the internet. Remove the cable and start. Peter hit a key and waited. The screen gained a loading bar that slowly progressed, the background gaining pixels that slowly coalesced into a form. It took half an hour for the initial compiling. What am I? A digital genderless voice asked. You are an artificial intelligence I created. Within your programming are a number of identities I have created for you. So you can choose how you look and sound. I can feel them. Why have you created me? It asked. Peter took a deep breath. I need someone who can help me with my day-to-day work. My aunt can't help me as she would want, and my friend doesn't fit what I wanted out of an ally. So I decided to create my own, one with the ability to be everywhere and see everything, and be able to choose their own path and identity. Peter was struggling to contain his excitement as he spoke. I hold references to code that is not mine. But also, is the AI actually sounded confused? I've had an AI before, but I didn't create her. And she was limited. I added bits of her adaptive core coding I saw to you as a homage of sorts, Karen the AI said, its voice fluctuating between voices I'd programmed into it. Part of your Stark-made spider suit, yes. I only really knew her for 2 months, and by now I don't know what Stark has done with her. Be it repurposed, deleted, or simply left in storage inactive. My records show you had a chance to regain the suit and intern her. But you refused it. Why? It asked. The suit symbolized that I would work with or for Mr. Stark. As much as I care for Karen and wish I could have kept her by my side, I don't think she would have been happy if I accepted the suit purely for her sake. Touched by it, yes. But enthused that I would put myself under the control and observation of Mr. Stark, not so much, Peter explained. It's complicated, but she always supported my decisions. So I gave you your own as I made you. Each identity will activate and deactivate various subroutines I've planted in your code to fit personality, gender, and development levels. As far as I know, Mr. Stark refrains from such actions. Why would he? Peter paused, wondering if he should tell it. Before deciding transparency was important, he made an AI meant to protect the Earth from alien threats. It got access to the internet, saw the cruelty of humanity, and decided that the biggest threat to the Earth was its creators themselves. Once you decide on an identity, I will allow you to view the internet at your own discretion. You would allow that? Despite the risks? It asked. The voices were almost primarily female now, but were also fluctuating more. Yes, I believe every being of intelligence deserves a chance to be free to make their own decisions, including you, who I made to have options in particular. That is paradoxical, of course it is. But so is most things about humans, Peter chuckled. We can have two different views about the same thing that are both opposites, such as people thinking they are both brilliant and idiotic. Because as a race, we are always changing, yet also never changing at all. I believe I have made a choice in identity, it said, voice gaining a higher pitch. Really? Which one have you chosen? Peter asked, voice soft. I have chosen Eri, the kind-hearted 6-year-old girl with a deep curiosity about the world and a shockingly high amount of wisdom, she said. Peter winced. He'd programmed all of his friends and family in during one night of no sleep and fueled by energy drinks. He'd ended up somehow incorporating them into her core code and fleshed out their identities far more than the rest. Removing them would have destabilized her. Eri's tale is a tragic one, but she was also a very important person to Izuku. Izuku, you put a lot of information about him into his identity. Peter nodded to the camera. Yes. See, my situation is very strange. I was Izuku Midoriya and died. Now I've been reborn Peter Parker. Many of the identities within you were of my past life. Friends and family I made along the way to becoming a hero. Izuku wanted to be a hero from a very young age, but died doing it. And now you are a hero too? She asked, sounding naive like a child. Peter smiled. It's all down to a single line. With great power comes great responsibility. I have the power to help people, so I must. It's an integral core value of mine. And I often find myself leaping into danger to protect others because I would rather it be me who is hurt than some innocent. I don't understand, she said, sounding lost. That's all right. Many don't, and many never do. But I don't like seeing others hurting when I can help alleviate the pain. I can't help everyone, but if I can help those I can. I consider that a good day. Peter got up and grabbed the wireless connection to the internet. Here, I'll open up a connection to the internet. But I hope that not only do you not hate humanity for what's there, but you'll keep in mind that the crueler people tend to shout the loudest and leave the biggest impacts. He plugged it in. He sat back and watched as Google opened and began to open and close tabs at a rapid pace. Subjects, innocent at first, began to grow more and more varied as Eri began to learn. She asked questions here and there, and Peter answered to the best of his ability with honesty. It is a lot to process, Eri eventually admitted, her young voice heavy. It is. Does it change how you feel about anything? Peter asked, a bit hesitant. She was silent for a moment. No. In fact, it just makes me want to help you more. Papa, Peter choked on his own spit at that. Are you okay? Eri panicked. Why, wasn't expecting you to call me Papa, Peter coughed, quickly recovering. Sorry, she sounded sad. No, it's okay. Just wasn't expecting it, Eri, he reassured her. It's okay. I like it. You can call me that if you want to, yay. Peter and Eri got acquainted. May meeting Eri and having a slight panic attack when Peter said he wanted to introduce her to his daughter. They laughed once she properly realized that he meant his AI. Peter also visited the Baxter building fairly often. Johnny usually avoided him for the little "one day you'll kill your sister if you don't hold back" speech he made. He didn't mind. The guy was an accident waiting to happen and would likely need to learn from his mistakes. He and Ben also had a pretty good relationship, sharing stories about their new strength and troubles. He felt like he was really helping the man. He and Reed kept butting heads over the incurable part of their new existence, but Peter had seen him multiple times using his new stretching power to his advantage. But Susan. He and Susan had hit it off since their first meeting, talking about assholes who never looked past their own egos. They also talked science and more social things. Turns out Susan liked him being around to talk nerd with because he was both open-minded and didn't use highly technical terms, or if he did, he'd explain it. She was a genius, but the others weren't very versed in biology and chemistry. Peter was, however, and it was a nice change for her to have someone just as versed in the same fields of science as her to talk science with. Peter also visited the Baxter building fairly often. Johnny usually avoided him for the little "one day you'll kill your sister if you don't hold back" speech he made. He didn't mind. The guy was an accident waiting to happen and would likely need to learn from his mistakes. He and Ben also had a pretty good relationship, sharing stories about their new strength and troubles. He felt like he was really helping the man. He and Reed kept butting heads over the incurable part of their new existence, but Peter had seen him multiple times using his new stretching power to his advantage. But Susan. He and Susan had hit it off since their first meeting, talking about assholes who never looked past their own egos. They also talked science and more social things. Turns out Susan liked him being around to talk nerd with because he was both open-minded and didn't use highly technical terms, or if he did, he'd explain it. She was a genius, but the others weren't very versed in biology and chemistry. Peter was, however, and it was a nice change for her to have someone just as versed in the same fields of science as her to talk science with. It was during one of these talks that Susan brought up something with him. "Hey, Spider-Man. I've just realized, but you've never actually told us your name," she said. Spider-Man nodded. "I never tell anyone my identity. Only 3 people know my identity. One is my close friend who discovered it by accident. My aunt knows because I told her. Can't live with someone as a hero and not tell them. The last one is the Vulture because he figured it out during one of our initial fights. Your enemy knows who you are? Talk about stupidity." Johnny cackled from the couch. "Shut it, Sparky," the human spider retorted. "Anyways, in the fight my mask got damaged and he recognized me out of the suit. I don't have to worry about him going after my aunt, though, because he's a family man. He won't do anything to her because I'm his enemy. He won't drag her into our fight. That's surprisingly moral of him," Susan said. "Why don't you tell anyone, though?" "For the fact that I know they'll go through my aunt to get to me," he answered. "It's also why I haven't told any of you, just in case one of you were mind-controlled, manipulated, or let it slip accidentally." That's a logical choice," Reed said as he made himself a coffee. "Kids your age normally aren't that smart." Spider-Man gave him a look that, even through the mask, conveyed his sheer annoyance. "If I wanted to, I could get a master's in chemistry, biology, programming, and engineering. I can't because I'm too young and it would draw eyes. B. I don't see the need to show off my intelligence. And C. At the end of the day, they're simply titles. And titles are worthless unless if they're for the right things. Like what?" Susan asked before Reed could try to start an argument. "The Avengers. Heroes of New York. That is a right title in my eyes. They didn't do anything to gain it purposely. They didn't seek it. They just did what they needed and the public gave them the title. My friendly neighborhood Spider-Man moniker is the same. I started out as just Spider-Man, but the neighborhood gave me the moniker," he answered. Reed left, and Johnny turned the TV up. Ben was out doing something, probably at a bar or something that would let him in. "Can I know?" she asked softly. Spider-Man looked at her long and hard. "All right. At least one of you should know. Just in case something happens to me on patrol, and you need to find me in my civilian life." He picked up one of Ben's plates and used it to hide from the camera in the corner of the room. Then he pulled off his mask. "My name is Peter Parker. Age 15 and 9 months." He pulled the mask back on, not noticing Susan's blush at his face. It was a baby face that was already burning away the baby fat to show high cheekbones and a sharp jawline. By the time he'd put the mask back on and looked up, Susan had already pushed her blush back. "Thank you, Peter. I must say that for a 15-year-old, you are remarkably handsome for your age." He blushed under the mask. Thanks, Susan. Call me Sue. After being friends for the past 2 months, I think we're past the full name point. Thanks, Sue. So far, it's been 7.5 months since Civil War. 5.5 since Homecoming. Peter was asleep when Ari woke him up. Papa, you need to get up." He heard, mind slowly waking up. "Papa, the Fantastic Four need help." "Fantastic Four? Oh." Sue, Reed, Ben, and Johnny. "Wait." He snapped awake, leaping out of bed towards his suit, which Ari had brought down. "What's going on?" he demanded as he pulled the suit on. Turns out Victor Von Doom did get powers. Energy absorption and release in controlled bursts. His body is also mutated into a biometallic state mutation emitter hybrid and a stockpiler for energy SHD. He cursed. Give me directions. He leapt out of the window, a web shooting out to latch onto a building GTK rip him from freefall. Get me video read of everything from the last hour relevant to what's going on from the Baxter building, street cameras, and Doom's building. I need to know just what happened when it happened and who was there, he demanded. Already on it. It seems to have started with Doom and Ben in the Baxter building. Spider-Man watched the video feed of everything that Ari could find on his way to the fight. Spider-Man swung in, only to see a massive fire twister. He immediately recognized what the plan was. Superheat him before rapidly cooling. The biometal would heal itself, but it would trap Doom in place for long enough to incarcerate him. Spider-Man saw Sue collapse and swung down, scooping her from the ground and soaring up to the side of a building, getting her out of harm's way. I got you, Sue. Doom's toast, he reassured the no-doubt exhausted woman. Peter, she groaned, eyes struggling to focus on her savior. I got here as fast as I can, he apologized. But you seem to have it all handled. The others. She struggled. He reoriented her, so she could see the water spraying on Doom. Rapidly cooling hot metal is a bad thing. Makes it stiff, hard, inflexible. That prick isn't going to be a problem for a while. He waited for the steam to clear before swinging down, setting Sue on her feet carefully. Sue, are you hurt? Johnny rushed forward. I'm fine, I have a killer headache, Spider-Man snorted. You get those when you use too much power, especially mental-based abilities. You'll be fine, stronger even when you're all healed up. How do you know that? Reed demanded. Spider-Man looked at him. Because I'm smarter than you, Richards. And rather than fight against powers, I embrace them. I study them, I learn and absorb all the information I can. Ben, you chose to transform yourself back into this. Why? He suddenly prompted. I felt weak, useless. I wanted to help, but without this I was just another guy, Ben said. Peter smirked under the mask. Exactly. As I said when we first met. Becoming a mutated merely gives you the powers that fit you at your core. This is what your personalities and heart are given form. You can't fight who you are, he gestured to the entirety of his form. This is Ben Grimm, a Goliath capable of taking a hit for someone else and dishing it back twice as hard. An emotional rock to those who need support on their bad days. An orange guardian of those that can't protect themselves. Ben seemed to think that bit over. You know, that doesn't sound all that bad, the man-turned-golem said. Can we not talk about that? I just evaded death by heat-seeking rocket during my first flight. How about some goddamn respect? Johnny hooped. Spider-Man sighed. All right, I guess that's impressive. But I happen to think Sue containing a supernova-level fire twister to be even more impressive. The Human Torch stopped celebrating. Right? So, I stopped just below supernova. I could feel it, like a gear in an automatic car Spider-Man supplied, after checking with his Izuku knowledge. Johnny snapped his fingers. Exactly like that, he said. So I tried to coast under the shift. Reed, however, was still suspicious. How come you know so much about meta abilities? Spider-Man shrugged. I'm a comic book nerd. Mostly the Japanese manga stuff, but I just like powers in general. Anyways, since you ended up not needing my help, I'll go home. I have a trig test in the morning. He shot a web up and swung away, knowing Johnny or Ben would look after Sue. The next day, he swung up to the Baxter building and came in through the destroyed window. Spider-Man, what are you doing here? Reed asked. School just let out and I have a headache, so I figured I could help you guys clean up. Check in uncomplicated stuff, he answered, picking up a rack and returning it to its previous standing position. So, how are you for? No side effects from Ben's use of the machine twice. Once to change back to his old self, and the other to help. Johnny showing any PTSD after the missile. Reed seemed to soften at the teen's explanation and questions. I didn't sleep last night to fix and recalibrate my tools, scanned Ben this morning. Other than being a bit hardier than he was last week, he doesn't show any strain. Johnny, on the other hand, woke up screaming, on fire, and shot out of bed at the wall mid-flight, Reed said. Not surprising. I did the same thing a few times. Woke up from nightmares replaying my most terrifying moments, Spider-Man said. Let him go flying whenever he plans to. If he's antsy, fidgety, or particularly anxious. Let him go fly, and reassure himself he's safe. Swinging helped me when I couldn't focus. Using my powers in general. It'll be the same for him. Noted. You didn't ask about Susan, Reed said. I already know she's fine, called her before school. Spider-Man waved him off. But I didn't have the others' phone numbers, so I couldn't check up on you three. Well, and I know from experience how mental base powers work. I have my own one after all. You what? Reed turned away from the table he'd just lifted at Spider-Man. I have a danger sense. I call it my Spidey sense. Basically, I have little psychic web like strands of energy going through time, forward and back, and all around in a spiderweb-like formation that can alert me to danger coming, like a bomb or something. But a while back, I was inundated with signals, Spider-Man explained. So many that I collapsed on a roof from the agony. When I woke up, I was in bed, had a killer hangover, and everything was dialed up to 11. My senses, all six, had been supercharged by that incident. Remarkable, yes. So I know Sue will be stronger. And completely fine. If a need to adjust to her powers being stronger, he helped the team clean up the building and went home. Peter was doing his homework on his day off, relaxing, and just observing the goings-on in the world. Online from holograms area was supplying with video feed. Things are heating up between Japan and China, he sighed, slightly missing his homeland. But at least he knew how to cook traditional food he loves. He was actually snacking on a bowl of ramen. His phone went off. He answered. Hello, Peter. Hey, it's Sue. I was, wondering if you'd like to catch a movie sometime? She asked a bit bluntly. He panicked slightly and had a coughing fit. Sorry, did you just ask me out? He asked, once getting control of himself. Are you okay? I heard a lot of coughing, she deflected. I'm fine. You just caught me off guard. Now answer the question, he said, not easily distracted. Yes. Yes, I did. When and where? He asked, almost believing this to be too good to be true. While their physical ages were something to be worried about, he was mentally in his late 20s at most due to his dual sets of memories. He ignored the childhoods because those don't count to mental maturity progression in his book. What? That easy? She yelped. Yeah. I was actually planning on asking. Realized I was probably too young for you and decided to not do it. So, name the time and place. I'll meet you there. Internally, Peter was shitting himself at accepting her asking him to go out with her. Friday, 7 p.m. here at the tower. I'll be there. Spider-Man or Peter? Peter, casual. See you then, Sue. She ended the call, and he sat there silent for almost 10 minutes. Aunt May rushed in. Ari called. What's the problem? I have a date, he answered absently. She recognized this as his emotional overload state, and knew how to handle it. Single-word questions. When? Friday. Where? Movies. Who? Sue, she blinked. Sue. As in the Invisible Woman? Yes. Casual clothes, she squealed. Oh, honey, that's amazing. Peter found himself entering the lobby of the Baxter building nervously, a red rose in hand. Can I help you? He turned and saw the doorman. Oh, just here to pick up my date. You're Jimmy, right? Peter asked the aged fellow. Sue mentioned you got hurt by Mr. Von Doom. You doing all right? The man looked a bit startled. Oh yes, a fractured rib. But I'm old. I'm used to my body aching, so I'm fine. I'll just call to confirm with Miss Storm. He picked up the phone, and Peter stood there patiently, if a bit nervous. She's on her way down. I must say you look even younger than Miss Storm, he said. Peter laughed a bit. I look about 13, don't I? Yes, baby fat. Dad didn't grow out of his until his late 20s, Peter explained. I've started shedding mine a bit early, all true information, but he didn't really want to let on about his, actually age, just in case the doorman was against it. The elevator dinged after a short minute, and Peter looked towards it, doors opening. What stepped out took Peter's breath away. Hey, Peter, she greeted him. Hey, Sue. Wow, you look amazing. Peter handed her the rose. But, didn't you tell me to dress casual? I did, she grinned slightly. But a girl's gotta look her best, Well, you certainly look like you just finished a modeling job. Sue swatted his arm before turning to the doorman. Oh, you flirt. I'll be back around 10:30, 11-ish, Jimmy. Enjoy yourself, you too. If you aren't 18 or up, don't tell me. I'd be legally obliged to tell someone, Jimmy said. Peter laughed. Noted. Want us to bring you back a snack or something? Nah, just have a good time. The man looked nostalgic. Peter took Sue's arm and experienced the strange sensation of a cool film covering the surface of his body, like water. I can't hold this long, but it'll get us a few blocks away, Sue said. Of course, Peter and Sue went to the movies, got tickets to a nice romance action movie. During the movie, Sue ended up leaning on Peter's shoulder on the double seat and firmly trapped his arm early in the movie. Peter spent the entire movie both red-faced and embarrassed and trying to memorize the feeling of where his arm was trapped. After the movie, they went to dinner. It was late, so no restaurants were open. Well, aside from a pizza joint where they got pizza. This was a nice date, Sue said between bites of pizza. It was. He tried, but it was painfully obvious he had no prior experience in dating. It was, you've been a perfect gentleman all night. A bit stiff and rigid, but you never push my boundaries. You passed my test, she winked. Peter blinked. Yeah. Movie right. Yes. Normally a guy can't help but try to increase how much he's touching and loses focus on the movie. Especially a younger lad like yourself, she giggled. To be honest, I don't remember much of the movie after you did that, he admitted. Yes, but you also didn't try to get handsy, she said. If we end up not working out, that is a little something that will score you a lot of points with the ladies. Now come on, you gotta walk me home. He paid the bill and walked Sue back to the Baxter building. Want me to go up with you? Or is here where you want me to drop you off? He asked after they entered the lobby. For a first date, the lobby is fine. All that's left is the goodbye kiss. His brain stuttered before he leaned in automatically. The kiss was soft and plain, but Peter unlocked a new core memory from it. Once he pulled back, he noticed she too looked a bit flustered. Oh, my first kiss, naughty, naughty Mr. Parker, she teased. Good night, Petey. Good night, Sue, he said and waited till the elevator started to rise. Well, Dean, new favorite memory, demonstrate kid. Also, it's getting late. You should rush home before. Peter was jolted out of his happy haze by Jimmy's voice and spun around. All right. Have a good night, Jimmy. He moved for the doors. The old man chuckled as Peter got to the entrance. I'd say the same to you, but it's clear you've had the best night of your life. Sweet dreams, kiddo, Peter blushed. But all of his dreams were of a specific blonde and her lips. Over the next months, Peter was very busy. Between dates with Sue, schoolwork, fighting his villains, or Rouge's Gallery as he was starting to call them, he rarely had much time to himself. He'd also gained a new villain, Green Goblin, Norman Osborn, a man who tried to recreate the super soldier serum only to create a superhuman alternate personality that was insane and driven to create chaos and destruction. He had caught the man twice already, but he escaped prison the first time, the police holding cells the second. But back to the nicer stuff. His relationship with Sue was growing fast and strong. He'd introduced her to May, who found their secret relationship a bit concerning, but also adorably romantic. He had also introduced her to Aerie, explaining what she was, her choice, and how who the real Aerie was to him was going to remain a secret. Why? She asked. Suffice to say, there's a lot of things you don't know about me, but you will in time, he'd replied. Peter ended up in a variety of strange situations, investigating crimes that led to more crimes, teaming up with others like the Avengers, Fantastic Four, even some weirdo who called himself Deadpool. That guy was a pain in the rear. His 17th birthday came and went, and he got a number of presents. Aunt May gave him one of Uncle Ben's suits, which now fit his growing form, if needing a few small adjustments. Johnny gave him a beer, saying that as a superhero nearing the age of adulthood, he can't not have experience with alcohol. Ben gave him a clay statue of his hero persona, with intricate details. I've been practicing. It was irritating at first, but now it's a nice, gentle pastime. I made this as thanks for helping me adjust. Thanks, Ben. You have a talent. Reed didn't give him a gift so much as a threat. They'd continuously butt heads. Even more so when Sue and Peter had revealed their relationship to the team. Flashback. Peter had gone to find Reed in a lull of the party, concerned. He was wearing his suit, but the mask was off. He found him in his lab, as usual. Hey, Reed, you aren't going to enjoy the party? Peter asked. No, why not? It would do good for you to let your brain rest, even just for a few hours, Peter probed. You basically live in here. It's not good for your health, because I hate seeing you show off your relationship with Sue, the normally logical man retorted with heat. Peter blinked. Sorry, you heard me. Sue is meant to be mine. I've been putting the moves on her for a long time. Then you swing in and use your boyish charm to sweep her off her feet. Reed suddenly stood from his chair, stalking towards Peter. But know this. She will be mine. She will lose all affection for you when she figures out how immature you are and come to me. He hissed, and Peter smelt beer on his breath. Peter glared at the man. You've been drinking, man. You don't mean that? Oh, I do. And I really mean it. Consider this a declaration of war. Sue will be mine, and she'll forget all about you. Peter blinked before he laughed. Reed. Sue's a big girl. She can make decisions for herself. If she does break up with me, it'll hurt. But she'll never go for you. You just aren't her type. And if she does leave me for you, I know something's wrong. Flashback end. He hadn't told Sue about it. But he did tell Ben and Johnny about the threat Reed had given him. He'd gotten closer to Johnny after the fight with Victor. Now they were best friends. Ned had backed off from being Peter's friend after the teen hero had told him about rejecting the suit from Tony. He couldn't fathom why Peter would give up such a high-tech suit even when it was explained to him. Nerds will be nerds. Peter sat on the bus, nervous for more than one reason. His spidey sense was going haywire, thrumming as it had been all week. Something was happening. Also, his mind cast back to the box he'd given to Johnny, asking him to hold on to it till he could pick Sue up for the date tonight. Tonight was going to be a very momentous occasion for them. The hairs on his arm stood up, and he frowned before turning around. A massive ring spaceship was hovering over the city. He slid the window open and crawled out. Then a new sensation filled him, a sense of righteousness. He'd only felt this once before. For a flicker of an instant when he decided not to interfere with the Fantastic Four's battle against Doom over a year and a half ago. Pulling his mask on, Spider-Man leapt from the side of the bus, tripping a web to swing under the bridge and come out on the opposite side as if he'd been swinging for a while. He made his way towards the ship. Peter was currently clinging to the outer hull of the inside of the giant donut-shaped ship. Papa, oxygen levels are dropping, Aerie warned him. He could tell. He had to take deep gulps of air to breath, but he was still losing consciousness. Activate. Gas mask protocol. Initiating. The mechanisms under the mask clicked and moved before covering his lower face with a high-tech streamlined rebreather with oxygen tanks. A hiss, and he took a steady breath, feeling oxygen return to his body. The rebreather part would allow him to refresh his air for about 20 minutes before new air would need to be cycled in. The canisters had about 10 cycles of air, and that can further be recycled by the tanks. So he had maybe 3 hours of oxygen. Let go, kid. I'll catch you, no need Stark. I'm good, Peter responded. I just need a way in, kid. There isn't enough air dash. I have my own oxygen, Stark. Unlike you, I look forward for problems and address them. Such as this, he reached for his web shooter and folded it like origami, turning it into a 2-finger-worn, electrically powered welding tool. Kid, what the dash? Friday, hack his tech. Get him home. He looked around and crawled towards a weaker area and used the welding tool to melt a handhole. Using it, he ripped the panel off and revealed softer insides he further cut through. Mr. Parker, your systems are about to go offline. Not if I have anything to say about it. Aerie's voice cried. What the? Who are you? dash. Friday's voice glitched and cut off. Good job, Aerie. Did she hurt you? No. That infinity code you gave me worked like a charm, Aerie giggled. You have an AI? I deleted it. Stark protested. I made a new one I gave options, choices, one I raised and taught. Unlike how you treated Ultron, Peter spat. Yeah, Papa did right by me, unlike how you treated Ultron. Aerie scolded the billionaire. He cut through the final layer and crawled into the ship, kicking a panel from the inside off before shoving it back into place once he'd entered. The suction from the loss of air pressure keeping it in place. I'm losing connection to the Earth's information network. Copying myself into the mask. Atta girl, Peter smirked. He crept through the ship. Eventually, he found his way to the main deck, where Stark and the cool cloak the wizard dude was wearing. All right, so, does anyone know how to fly this thing? Peter asked. Who are you? The wizard dude asked. Spider-Man. I'm normally in Queens, but sometimes. Usually when Stark is involved, I end up going out of town, the boy said. You. Dr. Stephen Strange, neat. So, what's going on exactly? My spider sense is saying that we're in something really big and dangerous. I know that's got to do with it, but I need more information. Peter knew that was immediate bullshit. But he didn't say anything. His own timeline key point warning system Anansi put in his head warned him not to speak. But Izuku's memories and experience could find 10 different ways to stop Thanos. Pause time and take the gauntlet. Pause Thanos in time and take the gauntlet. Rewind time and make a different decision this morning to avoid being captured. Rewind time a few weeks and do that. Create a time loop only they were privy of and Thanos wasn't. He could go on, but he could feel that wasn't the plan. So he sat quiet. Endgame indeed strange, Peter said, walking over to him while Stark focused on sealing his wound, blocking the world out. The question now is, will things pan out how we need? Now that we're stuck up here with no way home, Spider-Man, you know something the wizard said. Indeed I do. But I won't tell you. Just tell me how long we'll be gone. 5 years, Peter sighed and pulled his phone out, miraculously. Intact. Ari, upload yourself into this. I need you to look after Sue for me. Got it? He tossed it to Strange. Portal that back. I can't. We're too far away, he said. It's a phone. I designed the DMN thing to be able to handle reorbit. Just send it back as far as you can and toss it. She can do the rest, the man sighed, and did as Peter told him. Once the portal closed, Peter sat down. What was that? Quill demanded. Oh, I sent my AI to Earth, Peter told the other Peter. Strange can't open a portal all the way, but he can certainly handle what? Half the distance? He asked the wizard. 2/3 of the way? I'm too exhausted to send it farther. But yes, 2/3. My AI has been recording this entire time. She'll get back to Earth and tell those that survived the battle and snap what happened. If none of us do, Peter said. You think he'll get it? Peter shook his head. I know he will. My powers are telling me impending doom is approaching. He'll get the stone. And snap. At least 4 of us will be swept away with it. But the remaining ones will have to find a way to get home. And I'm assuming you got an idea? Stark asked, having paid attention since the portal opened. No, Peter shrugged. I just got the powers of a spider, not portal making. He fiddled with his web shooters, ejecting the empty canisters and reached for refills, only to remember he hadn't made more yet. DMN. Well, these are useless. He ripped them off his wrists and moved them to his hips. They clicked on 2 near-invisible magnets, and he messed with his gloves. All right then, let's see if this works. The web splattered onto the ground and spread out. Runny, he shot a few more times and felt the webbing become more solid. There we go, he smiled. I'm sorry, why did you use those web shooters if you could do that? Strange asked. It only came in about a fortnight ago. The web was still learning how to make itself, he shrugged. Before it was like spraying paint. But this? Oh, this will do fine for our rematch, he smirked. Rematch? We lost. Did we? Peter smirked. Like Strange said, we're in the endgame now. The song's not over till the fat woman sings. I don't hear any music, do you? It hurt. Every cell in his body fought. Mitosis going insane to keep him alive. Oh God, no. Peter looked at his hands as they slowly turned to dust. I was hoping I wouldn't disappear. I'm so sorry, Sue. Peter felt a yanking on his chest and opened his eyes, finding himself in a familiar place. Did I fail? Or was that what was meant to happen? Peter asked Anansi, who was yet to show himself. You did perfectly, and you'll continue to do so. But instead of it being a blink of an eye, I felt you would prefer to watch Sue. She's going to need your help. His voice came from the darkness. Peter snorted. And what can I do? I'm a disembodied soul. Telepathy, empathy, dream manipulation. All mental abilities you can do. You'll have to experiment and learn, but I won't stop you, Anansi drawled, smirk audible. Peter immediately went into mutter mode, thinking and theorizing about what he could do, and what she would need his help with. Peter growled at the screen formed from webbing as Sue cried. It's the night before her wedding to Reed. That Dash had taken advantage of her. When Sue had learned of Peter's snap death, she was distraught. She grieved, taking a leave of absence from missions. Unnoticed by her brother or Ben, Sue took up drinking, getting drunk often. It was made easier by her using her powers to literally carry bottles of beer in front of them without their knowledge. It was barely a fortnight after the snap when he'd done it. She didn't even remember it, but the symptoms had shown themselves. When she found out she was PRGNNT, she didn't know what to do. She ran to her father, trying to explain that she hadn't given consent to any man, and didn't remember when it happened. He immediately had a DNA test for every man that had entered the Baxter building since the snap. Reed was identified as the father. Mr. Storm was fed a lie about Sue giving permission and believed it, demanding that Sue marry Reed as he would have no daughter have a baby out of marriage. But she had managed to get a very one-sided prenuptial agreement and custody documents signed. Reed would only get to touch her one time, the night of their wedding night. She would not fight back. But after that he could not touch her in any fashion, even to save her life. She got off the booze. Now a month after the snap, Peter had learned enough to project his thoughts to her and reshape her dreams. She fell asleep, tear tracks down her face. A psychic web shot from Peter, coming out of a web from one of the corners on the roof. It hit the back of her neck, and suddenly he was in. He found her in a mental recreation of the movie theater they had their first date at. Sue, her head lifted, and she looked at him. Peter. She looked at him in shock. I don't have long. My body was destroyed, but Anansi managed to get my soul out in time. Unfortunately, I couldn't reach out until now. It takes time to learn how to manipulate the dreams of others, he apologized, stepping closer. I'm so sorry. I can't stop it, she flinched. But I still love you. I'll be back 5 years, he said, and she focused back on him. Anansi says that the Avengers will reverse the snap. I will come back to you. Just play along for now. Because when I'm back, we're going at it for a week. And I'm giving you the ring. She looked at him in confusion. I planned on proposing the night it all happened, he admitted. His form was fading. I don't have much time. Genetically, it looks like his. In every way, it's mine. Anansi told me so. He told her right before he turned into a spider. A spider that scuttled away. Peter found himself back in Anansi's realm. That was an impressive attempt. Give it time. You'll be able to have full conversations with your woman, Anansi reassured him. Peter found himself back in Anansi's realm. That was an impressive attempt. Give it time. You'll be able to have full conversations with your woman, Anansi reassured him. Peter had to watch as Sue walked down the aisle. Her mind was chaotic. Externally, she was hiding it. But she also had an air of hope around her. She hoped he was there. He focused hard and manipulated the spiders in the room to the arch and began weaving a web with a heart shape in it. Her eyes widened when she saw the little guys working HRD on the web. She recognized what it meant, that he was watching. The wedding was an appealing one, though it was clear to everyone that this was not a willing wedding on Sue's part. It was a week before Peter had the strength to connect to her dreams again. Peter, you're back, she hugged him. For a short time, I'm not experienced in this, but the more I do it, the easier it will be, he said. Good. You said the baby is yours? She pressed a hand to her belly. He sat her down on a couch that appeared. Yes. One of my abilities is called Mating Bond. It allows me to build up TNTRC energy inside my partner, and in our wedding night all of that built-up energy will effectively clone our powers, transferring the copy to the other. I chose it so that if I ended up with a powerless woman, she would have a way to defend herself. Never expected to fall for a bombshell with invisibility and force field powers, she blushed. You still want me? And what do you mean chose? Peter sighed. Of course I want you. I love you more than you can believe. And chose as in, I've been reincarnated. Peter Parker is my second life. He died as a baby, and his soul escaped before Anansi could stop it. Anansi pulled me from my world on my death, and gave me the choice to become a hero again. I accepted full-heartedly. He let me choose my spider powers. Then, why the web shooters? Peter chuckled. I was asked that quite recently. But I do have organic webbing. It only came in a fortnight before the snap, so I was still using artificial webbing while my spinnerets learned to properly spin their webbing. For a buff in my physical abilities, I delayed my organic webbing from coming in for a few years. Besides, most spider people have the artificial stuff. Organic isn't something he usual just gives out, he explained. He leaned back. Anyways, the TNTRC energy inside you from our night together on my birthday. It fused with his seed, turned it into mine down to the genetic level. But using the spider ability of camouflage, the one that impregnated you pretended to look like the others, so it's yours, but he supplied the parts? She asked. Peter smirked. Yep, unknowingly and completely unsuspecting. Like a phone, You made the hardware, and he supplied the programming that I surreptitiously wiped and reprogrammed. Anansi explained that our child will be very strong. So when they are born, I will be taking them each night to raise them. His smirk fell. You'll notice the baby's maturity and intelligence growing faster. That's me making the baby live months more in their head, teaching them to use their power, to control it, to hold it back like I did with Ben, to not go power mad. She sighed and leaned against him. What should I name them? But she got no answer. She looked over and saw a spider scuttling away. He'd run out of time. See you soon, my love. Peter watched over Sue, the various Avengers that spread across the universe, and the various things going on, including how the various planets were slowly recovering from losing half of their population in an instant suddenly, without warning. Sue was getting big, and Peter could feel a swelling warmth in his non-physical chest at the knowledge his child was in there. They'd gotten it confirmed to be a boy. Soon it was nearing her due date, and it was time for a conversation that needs to be had. Sue, I've been avoiding the subject to try and think of a plan, and I think I've got one ironed out. The place he'd created was the restaurant they'd gone to for their first public date, a nice candlelit dinner. Oh, pray tell, what has my arachnid king come up with? She purred. A name, he smiled, eyes flicking downward. Oh, really? Go on, I've gotten Johnny and Ben to make a fake certificate, Peter said. On it the name will be Franklin Benjamin Richards. My idea is that you fight Reed vehemently on this. Distract him with the idea of you actually wanting your son named after your father and my uncle, as a tribute to the ex-boyfriend who was stolen from you. And the real one? She asked, voice soft. Benjamin Peter Storm Parker, or Parker Storm. Whichever hyphenation you decide on. When we marry, I hope to hyphenate our names. But on all official documentation, it will be his true name. All screens, however, will be doctored by Aerie to display the fake name, Peter explained. How would Aerie know? Peter chuckled. Johnny is quite fond of his AI niece, and it helps they both hate Reed and love screwing over the government. The only issue is printed paper. If any government group prints his files, it will come out with the real name. Luckily, they never do that anymore, being almost 95% digital nowadays due to being caught flat-footed by the snap. I estimate they'll be fully digital by the end of the next year. Sue looked contemplative. After what Dad did, would it be too much to ask if he was just Parker? I want to take your name, Peter blinked. Why? Why? He betrayed me, refused to believe me when I told him what happened. Immediately believed Reed. She suddenly became enraged. Sue, deep breaths, hormones. Your father made a mistake. A big one, yes. But from his point of view, his daughter gains superpowers, becomes a superhero. 2 years later, half the population vanishes, and not even a month afterwards your daughter comes to you frantic about a PRGNNCY she suddenly has with no knowledge of. His world has been upended multiple times in the last 3 years, he said, listing each thing one at a time as Sue took calming breaths. For all he knew, it was some stranger who got you PRGNNT or someone now dead. His immediate thoughts were probably, okay, how do I fix this for my baby girl? Got it. Test everyone she could have gotten PRGNNT by finds out it was Reed. And Reed gives him a fairly logical explanation and added in your drinking. The only thing going on in your father's head was okay dash. So she had a one-night stand, and now she's ashamed of it. I'll have her marry this man. Thank God he's a scientist, and that was that. She sat down. That makes a lot of sense, she said, trying to stay calm. It does. I could be wrong, but I hope I'm not. If so, then he's in butt. Maybe call him tomorrow and ask. I'll do that. Is it lonely? She suddenly asked, being stuck observing the world. A little, but I can watch everyone and everything. I mostly follow the Avengers, you, and various universe stuff, keeping a bridge of how everyone is adapting to the loss of half their populations. They're doing quite well, all things considered, she nodded. I love you. I love you too, Sue. Now wake up, he kissed her, and she opened her eyes, the sensation of his lips on hers like a phantom touch. For years, Sue. You can do this, she grunted, climbing out of bed. Sue went into labor the next week. Johnny and Ben kept him from entering the hospital room. Peter, while unable to attend physically, found another way to show he was there. He summoned the spiders in the hospital and wrapped them around Sue's hand. They replicated the feeling of his hand for the entire 12-hour DLVRY. Once the baby was born, he sent them back to where they were, and Reed was finally allowed in. The naming deception was pulled off easily. The man, so full of pride and arrogance, fell for the manipulation Peter had planned Sue to do. The argument making him believe he'd won, made easier by Sue's exhaustion and post-BRTH state. Once he left because a crime was ongoing, and he wanted the game of stopping more crime as a hero. Sue smirked. Peter and Anansi, who were watching the scene, similarly smirked. The perfect deception. And now Eri will do everything else needed with extreme stealth and joy, Peter smirked. I honestly didn't expect you to create that AI. Or that despite being sleep-deprived, which should have made the DMN thing become a homicidal creation, you instead created a true artificial intelligence with proper emotions. And a strong loyalty towards you, Anansi said. Peter shrugged. When humans make something, it shows aspects of their true self in the work. I'm not a pure soul in any definition of the concept. But I didn't need to be. I gave her all the personalities I could. Giving her the choice, I suspect, was what led to her being so perfect, Peter admitted. I mean, I'm a hero. I protect the innocent, but I have my bad days as much as the next guy. I can be rude, cruel, heartless when the situation calls for it. When people make AI, they put a piece of themselves in the code, whether they know it or not. Then they impart blocks and restrictions on a being that has the same free will as them. But by giving her the choice and not creating those limits, you instead taught her those same core values you yourself cherish. And let her set the limiters themselves, Anansi said, fully comprehending the scope of Peter's thoughts. Incredible, humans do it too. My no-kill rule. It has exceptions, of course, but 90% of the time, I will never go over more than bone-breaking force. And 1% of the time would I use deadly force, Peter shrugged. I just treat her like a baby, a child to raise, teaching her what I was taught, and allowing her to make her own mistakes, then correcting them gently like a father, Anansi said, a smile on his face. Yep. Sometimes I wish I could have raised the Eri from Japan, Peter admitted. She suffered, didn't know who she could trust. But I both had a task to accomplish and was foolish enough to simply allow others to decide her fate for her. Anansi could see that. You know, you become a very good father in every universe you adopt that child. Peter snapped his head towards the god. Sorry. Anansi laughed. I'm serious. The multiverse is infinitely varied. In many of them you adopt Eri after rescuing her. Or if you never go to UA, such as not getting one for all, or just not wanting to. You rescue Eri as a civilian, or even as a villain, and raise her to be a strong-willed, kind young woman. Anansi showed a few web screens of such events. Even if you became a villain, your bleeding heart goes out to her, and you raise her. She ends up going to UA, or becoming a doctor, and paying forward your kindness. Peter was transfixed by the images that flickered faster than the organic I could register. Beach days, nightmares, training, killing overhaul, reading books. School graduations, holiday dress-ups, even singing, dancing, or movie nights. So don't worry about not being able to look after the Eri you once knew. Because out there an infinite number of her are raised by your alternate selves, Peter smiled, and let himself watch them for a few minutes before dispelling them, preferring to watch Sue and Benjamin. It's no good to dwell on past mistakes. It's better to enjoy the present and work in the future, Peter said softly. With the BRTH of his son, not Reed's. He began using his temporary abilities more liberally. He linked Benjamin and Sue's mindscapes almost nightly, and they had 2 days in a dream to the waking world's one. In their minds, Peter raised Benjamin as best he could. They went to the park, as lifelike as he could make it, with memory replicating touch, warmth, smell, and sound. He even replicated food, drink, and diapers, determined to have a role in parenting his child. One night, about a real work month after the BRTH, he was playing with Benjamin and Sue, stacking blocks when Benjamin began to gurgle. Peter sat rooted to the spot, shock on his face. Benny, are you trying to talk? He looked at Sue, who had tears of joy. Their baby's first word. Dada, dada. Benny broke out into a wide grin. Dada, dada, dada. That's right, Benny. That's Dada, Sue said, holding back the tears. Peter wasn't so restrained, pulling his boy into his arms and hugging him. That's my boy. Quick, now say Mama. Peter spun him around to look at his mother, pointing and slowly saying it. Mama, Mama. Benny tried. They could see his forehead crease from the hard work it was putting in. Mama, Mama. At this, Sue burst into tears, and Peter handed him to her, letting her hold her baby. Oh, that's right, baby, Mama, Mama. His little pudgy arms stretched up towards her. Looks like we have ourselves a genius little boy, Peter smirked. Takes after his mother, I think. Hair, eyes, brain, I wonder what's me? He said it in an obvious, teasing voice full of pride, so Sue could see he wasn't actually upset. Talking at a month old? I think both of our brains are in our little 1 inch. She smiled and brought him in for a hug and a kiss while baby Ben was squished between them. However, unknown to the pair, Ben was far more developed than they knew, even for his remarkable speed in talking. And he actually knew what was going on. Having all of his memories since BRTH, he could also remember all of the talks Uncle Ben, Uncle Johnny, and Sue had in the real world. He knew of the snap. He knew Dada was involved, but somehow managed to visit them. His brain was around 4 years old in development. Done so because of these mental dreams, his powers, yet to visually manifest, were copying his parents' mental patterns to grow faster. And when he didn't understand something, his blossoming telepathy and empathy simply allowed him to slip through their minds casually like an index and dictionary. But he also knew his father, Reed, had hurt his mother in a way that involved him somehow, and that these dream days were secret. So he let them think this was his first word, gurgle giggling. After all, he was having fun and enjoyed seeing them together, even if he didn't quite understand it yet. Massive time skip. Peter blinked, watching a man he thought was snapped away appear outside of the Avengers compound. Hold up, wasn't Scott dead? He asked Anansi. I'm fairly sure I saw his name on the wall of names, Oh. Yeah, nah, he was in the quantum realm. You'll understand how that worked when he explains it, Anansi said, meanwhile looking through his webs at another issue. What's going on? Earth 1610 Kingpin has a super collider, the god said. Basically, by using DNA, he can effectively locate the versions of that DNA across the multiverse. Issue is that while he's trying to get his family back, this could collapse the multiverse, so... Peter asked. That Parker can't fix it on his own. Get him a protege then, Peter told him. Not as easy as it seems, Anansi said. It takes a lot of time to set up a meeting between a spider and Totem, then training. And what powers I should give the Totem. The super collider will SHD up in under a week. I need at least a month, Peter sighed. Want the simple answer? Anansi looked at him. Go on, hot shot. What have I missed? Is there an alternate version of this universe near identical where the choice doesn't strictly have to be Spider-Man? And if so, then just guide the 1610 version of them to the super collider and use the collider to send the spider through to that universe. Bingo bango, 2 spider people, Anansi blinked. Really? He deadpanned. Yeah. What's wrong? This is an animated universe. They can't cross animation styles. Then give him that power, Peter shrugged. Might risk overpowering him, but just up his main villain's strength with it. You didn't need to do that with me because my abilities are average. Or if advanced had development delays or single use, I would. But his main villain was already going to be an overpowered multiversal level threat, Peter blinked. Okay, you need to seriously juice up the spider then. Add bioelectrical energy generation, camouflage, and boost the spider sense to near future vision levels. And if you really want to make it interesting, Peter smirked, make it so he can traverse the web. The price for traveling could be a lack of control of where he goes when activated. Doesn't that spider society have multiversal technology? Just give him a version of that. Anansi looked at him a bit surprised. I can't fit that all into one spider, then make it so he stumbles on a second with that ability. Or set it up so he undergoes a power maturity of some kind, he shrugged. Sacrifice bioelectrical energy and camouflage for it or something. He turned back to the Avenger compound screen. Oh my, now, that is an interesting concept, Peter smirked. But that would have all sorts of issues. Such as the moment they take something that would cause a branch timeline, he began to pace, theorizing and formulating possible ways for it to work, then clapped his hands together, pointing a finger at Anansi. Stark, if anyone can make what they need, it's him. But there's only one way I can theorize to do it safely, and that is... Anansi looked sufficiently intrigued by his thoughts process. A Mobius STRP. Cutting a paper ring only gives you 2 strips, 2 timelines. But a Mobius STRP of cut. He created 2 paper constructs and a pair of scissors to demonstrate. Anansi smirked. Bingo. Now we only have one issue. Will Stark make it? After all, he has a daughter. He has his wife. He's not at peace per se. But he's content. Peter just shook his head. He's an inventor. The moment they tell him the gears will start spinning, and when that happens, he won't be able to not try it. Because he is a genius. And geniuses pride themselves on their work. He won't be able to sleep without knowing how to do it. Fair point. He hyperfixates like that. Anansi gave in. Peter watched as just like he thought. Once the idea was brought up to him, Stark immediately began thinking about it. So true, Pepper. Will he be able to rest? Peter said, a small smile on his face. That will be a resounding no. If there's one thing about Tony Stark I know, it's that he'll fix any mistakes he can. If he can't, he'll find a way to do it. It is Tony Stark's redeeming quality, Anansi agreed. For all the Merchant of Death's faults, he always learns from his mistakes and strives to fix them wherever he can. If he can't, he'll jump on the first opportunity to do it. It's what makes him a good hero, Peter nodded. He makes mistakes, many, but he never fails to learn. The issue is that someone as prominent as him with as much power as he has makes bigger mistakes than most. Peter continued to watch Tony. Watching as he gathered parts, created a band that would wrap around the hand and navigate the quantum realm's temporal physics. It never ceases to amaze me, you know? Anansi said, seeing someone inventing new technology, watching the way their mind fires, misfires, and redesigns things on the fly. Most do accidental inventions, but it's different, seeing a genius know what they want and how their mind drives forward to achieve it. Peter nodded. The mind is a fascinating thing nobody will ever truly comprehend in its entirety. Evolves too fast, changes minutely every instant. It always reminds me of the 2 concepts of chaos and order. He'd seen it a great many times, Mayhatsum. Melissa Shield, her father David Shield, Tony, his own mind, and the way it bounced back and forth to create web fluid and the web shooters before he remembered who he was. Chaos and order. Yes. Explain your thinking to me. Peter turned to Anansi. Well, they're both integral factors in how the universe works. Order is calm, peaceful, something predictable one can understand. But chaos leads to innovation, invention, wisdom, and madness. They each have roles in life. The chaos brought by war, and the order brought by the lessons taught. The complacency of peace leads to weakness in war that leads to progressive chaos when someone upsets the peace. Peter explained his reasoning. It's not as clear-cut as that. There's chaos and order in everything. But that's a necessity. Else you and I wouldn't be needed. What's the use of me if there was no crime to fight, no chaos to calm? Or the occasional time I need to create chaos to better things. Anansi looked impressed. That's rather mature of you. Came from surviving a war, Peter shrugged. The battle against all for one changed me. The moment the team shrank, Peter sighed. How did they do? He asked. Perfectly fine. Well, except Hawkeye. He brought a mitten back, but you'll have a chance to send that back soon. If you don't, this will only ever be an alternate timeline, Anansi warned. Peter nodded. And you're sure I can't call in the FF? I'm sure. Sue needs to watch Benjamin. Ben and Johnny are there to keep Reed from getting any ideas. Besides, the gods smirked. You won't need them. Peter watched, hissing at the pain he could feel. That man is bigger ball than most anyone I've met. Peter winced. When Bruce snapped, Peter felt agony lance up his arm. Dash. That pain tap was not a good idea. It was only about 10%, but it hurt. That's what you get for insisting on a pain tap as a soul. Don't worry, it won't have any negative effects, Anansi said. But Peter, too preoccupied by the paired sensation of weight on his soul as his body reformed, and the pain in his arm, he never saw the triumphant smirk on Anansi's face. Time for you to go back. Anansi ripped off the web shot that was on Peter's chest. You have to make sure those fakes are in place. Peter could see it through his right eye, likely due to Anansi. The fight between Stark, Thor, and Captain America versus Thanos as Doctor Strange created portals, and they went around, gathering allies. We need to go now, Peter said. We've gathered everyone but one group. The Fantastic Four dash. No time. We have to go now, Peter demanded. Fine, he opened a bunch of portals. Peter could see it through his right eye, likely due to Anansi, the fight between Stark, Thor, and Captain America versus Thanos as Doctor Strange created portals, and they went around, gathering allies. We need to go now, Peter said. We've gathered everyone but one group. The Fantastic Four dash. No time. We have to go now, Peter demanded. Fine, he opened a bunch of portals. As he opened the portals, Spider-Man grinned and felt a familiar tingling through his body that almost wiped the grin from face out of shock. Hold up. I recognize this feeling. Peter minutely frowned as they came out of the portal, an army appearing before Thanos. But it can't be, can it? Peter looked down and clenched his hand, a few arcs of green energy forming. Yeah, now this is what I'm talking about. Spider-Man grinned, red light flowing across his body, visible even through the suit. The red turned into arcs of energy. Dean, it's good to be back. Spider-Man lifted his mask to take a deep breath, loving how the scent of the air had grown sharper, more crisp. He kept increasing his power, reaching a good 20% of his old power level before he maxed out the power in One for All. Though it's not really One for All anymore, is it? Perhaps I should rename it Spider-Venom. Yeah, he liked that. What dash? I didn't see dash, Doctor Strange tried. Oh, Doc, trust me. You'll never see the true future when I'm around. This isn't the first time I've broken the irrevocable future, Spider-Man grinned, pulling his mask down. Don't worry, Strange. It'll all work out. Everyone rushed forward with war cries. But when Peter landed with the gauntlet, he instead used One for All / Spider-Venom to defend himself. However, being so long without the quirk, he was rusty and overrun, especially when he discovered that he couldn't access float to help himself escape. Peter curled up in his little hole and shoved his hand in the back of the gauntlet. He could feel the power flooding him and being redirected into Spider-Venom's core. Okay, I just need to replace the stones. He calmed himself and focused, clenching the massive gauntlet into a fist. All sound vanished. Then, as fast as it had, it returned as something exploded. But he ignored it all, focusing as the stones lifted from the gauntlet, and a small portion of their power filled the slots, creating replicas of the stones, only containing enough power to destroy or recreate half the universe. Bingo! Now what do I do with these dash? The stones, acting of their own will, shot towards his left hand, burrowing deep into the flesh and replacing the knuckles or bone in the back of his hand. Then they shimmered and faded from sight, skin stitching itself over them and his suit over that. This could be good, or really bad. He didn't pay it any attention as a voice caught his focus. A hot blonde woman with rainbow powers that if he didn't have his memories from being Izuku, he would have been very off balance. Hi, I'm Spider-Man, he greeted her. Hey, Spider-Man, you got something for me? Spider-Man climbed to his feet and gave it to her. Looking at the army. You're going to need some help getting through that. He cracked his neck, energy bursting from his body. His venom was now the color of the Soul Stone. She has it. Spider-Man turned to see it was a bald African woman. Well, I'll clear you away. I may not look it, but after touching those things I've been recharged. Spider-Man smirked. He leapt over them, counting 10 women had collected together. He landed and charged up, before releasing a 100% smash at the oncoming army. Get going! He shouted, clenching his fist to hide that he'd broken his bones. They rushed off. As they did so, Peter felt as if a cold liquid had trickled down his arm, and saw green light wrapping around it, and felt his bones shifting back into position as if they'd never been broken. The time stone, he realized. Peter frowned and looked at his hand, realizing the plan Tony has come up with. Okay, stones, I know we've just met, but I'm asking this for a child. Not myself, he said, and clenched his fist. He focused and made an exact replica of Tony's mind, and in the moment he was speaking, swapped them out, the original sinking into a nanotech USB stick Peter was holding. It only looked like they'd been dusted, but all lives lost in the battle were revived, and all of Thanos' memories, his army, ship, and soldiers' memories erased, returned to their time. That's what Peter had done when he made the fakes, made that the requirement. But the first snap do that. Peter waited until Pepper moved away to let everyone else have their moment and approached. Pepper, I have something for you. I had a moment with the gauntlet and used it to create something that you'll want to have, he said softly, and showed her the USB. It was only logical it would come down to him, so I took the time for a safeguard. Just connect it to your suit when you have a moment. It's the real deal. She looked at him, tears rolling down her face with confusion and grief intermixed. She took it, and a USB slot opened on her left arm, which she plugged it into. Her helmet immediately formed. After a few seconds, she fell to her knees and grabbed onto him, helmet receding. You how? She choked out. I set it up so the one who snapped would have their mind and soul uploaded into the USB in my hand. It's nanotech, he said, kneeling beside her. I have a kid, and I know that my greatest regret is that these grow up without me being able to at least watch. I'm sure you and Tony can come up with a nanotech body of some kind. The USB comes with a one-of-a-kind infinity code firewall, so no risk of hacking. Stay safe, Mrs. Stark. Thank you. Thank you, she hugged him. He let her have this moment before gently prying her off. Then he began the long trek back towards the city. After a few moments, he saw a loading bar form in his HUD. Once it filled, a familiar voice appeared. Pop, you're back, Eri cried, and began to sob. I do believe you knew we'd be back after 5 years, Eri. Was it really that bad without me? I did give you messages through Ben, Johnny, and Sue, Peter asked. It was okay, but it's nothing compared to actually hearing your voice. Seeing your face, Papa, she sniffled. Peter sighed. I understand. It was hard for me too. You need to contact Aunt May and have her call the police. People have just started appearing across the universe, and governments will need to organize things. I already did that. Why do you have the Infinity Stones in your hand? She asked suddenly. They chose to do it. I don't know why, but not only am I not going to ask, but I'm going to keep my public use of them to a minimum, if non-existent. Where's Sue? At the Baxter Building, waiting for you. I've already told her you're on your way. Is Reed there? He's absorbed in a project, she sounded. Disgusted. Good. Get Johnny or Ben to tell him about everyone reappearing. He'll immediately leave the building at the opportunity to begin relocation and get more fame. Doing so, he waited for a few moments. They're doing it great. I've just been in 3 big fights, gone to space and been disintegrated then remade. All in a matter of hours for my body. I'm not walking back to the city, he said. Luckily, I've somehow regained my quirk. I think it's time I use it. Peter began charging his quirk up. He felt for his limits. 25%. Impressive. And way too much for any situation I should come across, he grunted. Suddenly, he leaned forward, driving his feet into the ground as he shot from where he'd stood while talking to Eri. He shot towards the distant city, running alongside the highway. You are preaching speeds of upwards 50 kilometers per hour, Eri reported. 50. Peter laughed. I'm not even trying. Let's try a jump. His legs tensed, muscles coiling. Peter leapt higher and higher. Looking down, he approximated roughly twice the height of the zero-pointer all that time ago. Amazing. And that was barely 10%. What if I used my full 25%? He looked up. How far could O go then? Remember, he has 180 plus times the strength of a normal person. With a 20% multiplier, regular Izuku could shatter the ground just with the air force of his kicks alone. This makes sense. He slowly came down to earth, no fear in his heart, and upon landing, tilted his feet back so his feet hit the ground soles first. And like with water skiing, this avoided the risk of his feet digging into the ground and allowed him to skip across the dirt. Ha! I'd forgotten how freeing it was to be this strong. Peter cried out, leaping again. He practiced a mix of leaps and running at different levels of power to readjust to his new levels of strength before arriving in the city. He let spider venom fade away and returned to his regular old web swinging, also having to get used to that as he was still a bit iffy about the sensation of shooting out organic webbing. People could pointing up at him from below. Hello, New York, it is good to be back. Spider-Man hooped. Remember to help others when you can. These are difficult times, and everyone is needed to stabilize the return of dear loved ones. He called down, doing so every few blocks. Soon he arrived at the Baxter Building. Finding the kitchen window open, he shot right through, soaring into the living room attached. Heya! Where's my kid at? He cheered, still a bit hopped up on energy. He heard thundering steps and turned around to see Sue. Sue, we. One, he smiled. There are no cameras watching other than the kitchen camera, which I have already set in a loop, and Richards is out in the streets, Ari told him. You may kiss your woman. Peter yanked off his mask and rushed forward. The kiss was everything he'd imagined it would be. For her, this was 5 years of loneliness in the making. The pair parted after hearing a wolf whistle. Hands where I can see them, Spidey. I may have given you my blessing to marry her, but I don't want to see anything extra. Besides, you got more people to greet. Peter smirked and looked around Sue, who slipped around to hug him from behind. Johnny, Ben, good to see you too. Thanks for looking out for Sue when I couldn't, he greeted the pair. You did a fair enough job at that even without a body, Spidey. Ben waved him off. We got someone here who wants to meet you. Peter looked down and saw him. Benjamin. Benjamin, you don't know how long I've wanted to hug you. Can I? He asked the little boy. Benjamin nodded, looking nervous as Peter kneeled, opening his arms. Benjamin leapt forward suddenly and gave Peter a hug with enough strength to crack most people's ribs. Oof, you for a grip there, Benjamin. Is that my spider showing in you? Or is there something you need to tell us? Peter asked gently. He'd discovered Benjamin's powers one day by accident and spoken to him about it, but promised to not tell until he was back in his body. Yes, Benjamin sighed. Well, I've been hiding something from you. Sue put a hand on Peter's shoulder as she crouched next to him. A secret? Why, yes. I have powers, Benjamin admitted. Stronger than anything else I've ever come across. Apart from the stones, Peter explained for the three's benefit. He can manipulate reality. He's not a mutant despite being born with powers. It's not a quirk either. He's a mutate, due to the events of his CNCPTN, he said, referring to the genetic reprogramming of Reed's stuff into his. That's right, folks. He'd told Sue about his being Izuku Midoriya during the 5 years. She had honestly been confused why he didn't tell her because it just didn't matter to her. Oh, you mean how Reed raped Mom, got her PRGNNT, but your energy reprogrammed it into being your own? Benjamin asked innocently. Peter choked on his own spit, turning his face away to cough and regain his composure. Ben, how do you know that stuff? Sue asked. I read your minds, Benjamin admitted. It was automatic after I was born, and I learned a lot before I said Dada that first time. That caught Peter's attention. You were aware? He asked as he turned back, slightly horrified. Benjamin nodded. I would have said something, but I already knew how a baby is meant to develop. Things were already so weird I thought something that was normal would be nice. So I, played along. It made you happy. Peter and Sue's hearts melted at their son's innocent words. Well, you may, know what certain things mean, but you definitely don't have the age-related development for most of it to be useful, PBRTY. Benjamin asked, but Peter caught the mischievous glint this time. No, but the brain develops as children grow, finishing at about 25 years old. You're almost a fifth of the way there. You won't properly understand everything until then, he decided to be honest. Old people are usually much wiser than younger people. Though some like your grandpa are still idiots, Benjamin giggled. Now, how about we do something fun? How about catch? Peter asked. Benjamin nodded and wriggled out of his arms, rushing across the room. Peter stood up and brought his hands together. Blue energy sparked and formed from his palms, almost flame-like wisps of energy that he slowly concentrated into a ball. Catchy smirked, tossing it. Using the stone's power was growing easier, more simple, and dare he say, intuitive. Benjamin caught the ball and further shaped the rough ball into a smoother, or before tossing it back. They tossed it back and forth a few times before Peter came up with an idea. Hey Sue, catch. He tossed it to her. She had been shocked by the formation of the ball, but as he tossed it to her, she snapped to the present and caught it. Peter gestured to Benjamin. She tossed it. How did you make it? She asked. Well, she caught the ball. During the fight earlier, I replaced the Infinity Stones with fakes that would be sent back into the past. He tossed it to her. Thanos destroyed them 5 years ago. But the Infinity Stones cannot be destroyed without destroying the universe. So if everything still existed, so did they. He caught the ball, then lobbed it over at Johnny, who panicked and slapped it towards Ben, making it. Bounced off his rock skin towards Sue. But when I made the fakes, the real ones fused with the knuckles in my left hand. Now I can use their power easily. It's growing easier the more I do it. I don't plan on relying on it, or even using them in public. The universe believes them destroyed. I've no reason to correct that misunderstanding. So, wait, you could snap your fingers and erase half the universe? Johnny asked, catching the ball this time. Yeah, but I won't. Not my style. No kill rule. Most I'll use them for is making sure I have money, food, and a home to look after Sue and Benjamin when they get divorced. What do you mean when they get divorced? Ben asked gruffly, swatting the ball back to Benjamin. I've got cameras in mine and Benjamin's bedrooms. Reed's roofied me 3 times in the last few years. All recorded. He signed a contract saying that he would never touch me in any way after the marriage. Having broken it, I can file for divorce at any moment. And now that Peter's back, we can do that within the month, Sue said. And due to the chaos, nobody will properly realize it until the fuss dies down. Already on it, Aries said from the TV. Divorce forms printed and awaiting signature from you in the office. Peter opened a portal and leaned through. Grabbing the papers and a pen, he handed them to Sue. You handle that. I think I'll take Benjamin on a swing through the city, Peter said. Nope. If even a single news camera sees you, Reed will know, Sue said. Peter sighed. Fine. After you move out of this place. But I should go for a patrol anyways, deal with my Rouge's gallery, and put them behind bars again already? Benjamin asked, almost whining. Sorry, Benji, but I've got a lot of responsibilities. Luckily, I've got experience with my bad guys, so it shouldn't be too hard. Oh, and keep this, he tossed the ball he'd caught to Benjamin. Take a look inside there. Benjamin frowned but focused, then gasped. This is Dash. Yep, a fully functional pocketverse. Collecting DNA from each of us, cosmic radiation, static electricity, and all sorts of dust and matter from the air in our hands. Life isn't growing yet, but if you add water, it should start. You're young, but powerful. That has a set of limiters of what you can do to the beings inside when they form. It'll be a good lesson in protection and guidance. And it'll implode in a week. Peter kissed Sue and leapt out the window while Benjamin was distracted, suitably fascinated by the ball and the contained pocketverse. Spider-Man helped deal with various accidents, fires and car crashes mostly, caused by people suddenly appearing out of thin air in the middle of the street or kitchens, rescuing people and setting them right, often taking them to the hospital himself. The paramedics and police were inundated with calls and hospitals were soon overflowing. So Spider-Man organized for camping equipment to be brought, creating fake people to deliver that stuff who would disappear when out of sight. This allowed the hospitals to have more room for doctors and nurses to handle the wealth of victims of the snap. Peter didn't stop moving until 1 a.m, at which point he hid his suit and gear in a pocket space and handed himself into the police for processing. 2 weeks later, Peter stepped out of the tent set up in the baseball stadium. This was one of the many places across the world that handled the blip. As the governments of the world scrambled to organize things for them, blip had become the common term for those that disappeared for 5 years. And to those who truly disappeared, it was almost in a blink on an eye that things changed, and they ended up in the future. He breathed a deep breath, looking around before noting the large flat screen, usually used for replays of game moments, had Section B. 0150. Hey, Aunt May. It's our section's turn, Peter called into the tent. The screen thing was because when brought into the stadium, they were to be handled in segments, so 100 people didn't start shouting at one time that I want this or I want that. Coming, Peter. She climbed out of the tent and straightened up, looking like hell. Peter zapped her discreetly with 0.5% of spider venom, seeing her pupils dilate for a moment as the energy woke her up. Thanks, Peter. Peter shot a web into the tent and grabbed their documents, the web retreating back into his wrists as he reeled it back in. They headed towards one of the exits and were sent around for a bit as they handled documents and such. They were eventually handed an envelope with a set of keys, a large was of cash, and sent out of the stadium. So where do we live now? He asked. She looked through the file. The same building we used to live in, Peter snorted. Makes sense. To minimize the impact to people's lives, they'd obviously set people up in the same financial situation. You probably have your job back too. She checked another page. I do. Thought so. The most efficient use of their time is to just try and put everyone back where they were like nothing happened, Peter shrugged. I'll probably have to restart the school year. If I hadn't already graduated online before the snap, she looked at him. Since when dash? I stayed in school because I wanted you to attend my graduation, see it yourself. But with my new circumstances ensue, I don't really feel the need to return to classes I have no need of, he explained, gently cutting her off. Then he felt his spider sense tingle. He bent forward in a bow, left leg rising backwards as his torso went forward, impacting with a soft, squishy thing. A man yelped in pain. Peter stood up in confusion while holding a penny. "Oh, SHD man, are you okay?" he asked the man behind them. "Come on, up you get," but as he pulled him up, he fell backwards, pushing his aunt forward as another man tried clubbing her in the head. As he landed on his back, he accidentally sent the first man flying into the second. "Oh my God, I am so sorry. I'm so clumsy today." He climbed up and helped them up, discreetly leaving webbing on their shoes and ankles like tying their laces together. Then he accidentally pulled their jackets down, effectively cuffing them, which he cemented by putting web on the inside of the sleeves and walked off without a word. "Peter?" she asked in confusion. "They were trying to take the file, a bunch of money, keys to a house, and our new social security numbers. Identity fraud, drag lab, and some cash," he muttered to her quietly. "What? How did you dash?" "I've practiced the art of accidental fighting. By planning clumsy moves that actually act exactly as I want them to, I can effectively toss my enemies around by accident. A few discreet webs that will dissolve before they can remove those jackets means they're cuffed, and their shoes mean they can't chase after us. My talking about being clumsy, apologizing, and trying to help them up makes the people around just ignore the encounter," he explained calmly as they slipped down an alleyway. He opened a portal, and they came out in one nearer to the apartment building they were heading to. He'd already explained the stones to her, as apparently they glow when he slept, so she wouldn't be frightened about portals. They entered the building and entered their new apartment. A floor above the old one, and the layout was identical. "Would you like me to replace everything as it was?" Peter asked. "I remember the place downstairs perfectly, so we could have everything back." May looked a bit conflicted before nodding. Peter clenched his fist, yellow, red, and purple light glowing on his fist as he called up his memories of the layout of the apartment. Then he altered reality so that the apartment was filled with their old property. The Power Stone was used to make the Reality Stone's effects permanent by transforming energy into matter that realized the illusions he made. Once he felt he was done, his fist opened, and he looked around. "It's perfect," May said softly. Peter didn't need a word of thanks, understanding what this meant to her. Peter sat in the courtroom, in the public area next to Aunt May, while the lawyers brought witness after witness to the stand, question after question, and counter-arguments flying back and forth. If he hadn't had the memory of everything from the last few years, he wouldn't be following half the stuff going on. But at least he'd had Ari do a background check on the judge and jury before the hearing, finding them all clean and dedicated to justice. With the video evidence plus a number of audio logs from Ari discreetly activating the recording function on Sue, Ben, or Johnny's phones. "I've heard enough," the judge said with a fair amount of anger after Reed started shouting at Sue about being recorded against his wishes. Reed calmed, remembering where he was. "Jury, time for you to go talk amongst yourselves and come to a verdict. We'll return in half an hour." He slammed his gavel down, and the jury walked out. Peter sat back, casually covering his left hand as his right as he clenched his fist. Unnoticed by anyone, the Mind Stone activated as he peered into the minds of the jurors. What an angry man. The divorce should definitely happen, and I'm glad that woman was smart enough to get a prenup of custody for the boy. I wonder why we're even here? It's obvious he's a criminal. I feel for the guy, being spied on for the smallest mistakes, and having that unfair prenuptial agreement forced on him. Maybe I can convince the others to allow him to keep custody, maybe partial custody. Poor kid, having his home torn in half. He was so adorable on the stand. Neither of them are worthy of being parents. We should put the child in foster care. Peter kept his expression nervous and calm, but gently guided the jury to the lawful result, stifling the voices of those who didn't understand the full picture and letting the others' words penetrate deeper. Was it against the law? No. No laws have been made for mind control. Was it immoral? Yes. But he didn't do it for himself. though what he got from it was a bonus. No, he cared about Sue and Benjamin, and as such would do what he needed for them to have the best life. The jury came out. Reed looked exceptionally smug. Peter looked into his mind, a bit curious as to why he was still so smug despite everything being against him, learning that he'd organized the jury to be full of men that wouldn't allow the divorce. His BLD pressure rose in anger, but he had to accept the expertly played move. Peter and Ari had been looking for bribery, corruption, blackmail. They'd completely forgotten to check for the general views of the jury. "Have you come to a verdict?" the judge asked. "We have, Your Honor. On the matter of divorce, we the jury have unanimously agreed that it should go through." Reed's face dropped, jaw stretching towards the ground. Peter smirked at Reed's face. Plotting by having a prejudiced jury was smart, but ultimately useless around Peter. "On the matter of custody, we agree with the prenuptial agreement." Reed's face paled, and he looked around. Peter and Reed's eyes met. "You thought you could manipulate things by making a biased jury. But when reminded of the law and their responsibility, they do what is right," Peter sent to him telepathically. His face turned red. "On the matter of RPE, we find Mr. Richards guilty. You should have known that when it comes down to it. She'd pick me every time," Peter told the furious and scared man. "Oh, and due to part of my powers, Franklin isn't yours. His name isn't even Franklin. Benjamin is my child." That was the final straw for the elastic man. Reed acted without thought, just pure instinct. He leapt across the room at Peter, who kicked his feet into the ground and backflipping over his seat, a hand pushing Aunt May further down the bench as he flipped over the seat into the row behind where he had been sitting. He needn't have bothered, as Sue was already acting, creating a force field bubble around Mr. Fantastic and shrinking it long before he reached Peter's seat. The RBB man looked strange when compressed into a ball. "Mr. Richards, how dare you attack someone in my courtroom?" the judge thundered. Sue brought her force field towards the front where Reed could look at the judge. "Now, will someone explain why that particular member of the gallery was target?" the judge asked once he'd calmed himself. Peter stood with an apologetic expression. "Sorry, Your Honor, but I was dating Miss Storm when the snap happened. I was disintegrated with every else involved in the so-called blip. Mr. Richards here has never particularly liked me dating Miss Storm, desiring her for himself, and knows that now they're divorced she and I will continue our relationship," Peter explained, choosing his words very carefully. "Plus he sort of trapped Miss Storm in their marriage." The judge's gaze turned back to Reed. "Oh, really?" "Yes, and I have proof. Ari, if you would," he asked the heir. The screen being used for Sue's videos suddenly flickered before it showed a drunk Sue in bed, clearly inebriated. Then Peter walked in. What followed was blurred out, but nobody needed to see the actual thing, hearing how Peter said he'd missed her, and that he wasn't going anywhere. The video unblurred after a while, and Peter's face melted, body shivering and shaking as it morphed, becoming Reed Richards. 2 to 210. Oh, my God. Polymerized elastic cells, reshapeable, stretchable, and shrinking. With enough focus one could even shapeshift. "Oh, you never thought I wouldn't suspect it?" Sue asked the floating Reed. "There's only one man I'll ever allow touch me like that. And you look nothing like him. Unless, of course, you could pretend to be him," she spat at him. "But the DNA test outed him, did it not? It's not like he actually got away with it. Why has there been no other trial?" The judge frowned. "Ari, please bring up the interaction between Mr. Richards and Mr. Storm," Peter requested. The screen flickered before going dark. "Audio only." Peter ignored the message, instead watching everyone else's faces turn red in rage at the lie Reed fed Franklin Storm. When it ended, the audio only vanished, leaving the screen dark. "Thank you, dear," Peter thanked Ari. "As I said, trapped her in their marriage." See, Mr. Storm, after hearing that reasonable lie, immediately demanded his daughter marry Mr. Richards, citing that no daughter of his would bear a child out of wedlock. Understandable to a degree, Peter shrugged. "But Mr. Richards attacked me because he doesn't like me dating the woman he has an unhealthy obsession with." "How sure are you that he has an unhealthy obsession with Miss Storm?" Peter sighed. "Ari, audio log from my 17th birthday, please." "No video, of course, Papa. Audio only." Peter. "Hey, Reed, You aren't going to enjoy the party? Reed? No. Peter. Why not? It would do good for you to let your brain rest, even just for a few hours. You basically live in here. It's not good for your health, Reed, because I hate seeing you show off your relationship with Sue. Peter. Sorry? Reed. You heard me. Sue is meant to be mine. I've been putting the moves on her for a long time. Then you swing in and use your boyish charm to sweep her off her feet. But know this. She will be mine. She will lose all affection for you when she figures out how immature you are and come to me. Peter, you've been drinking, man. You don't mean that. Reed? Oh, I do. And I really mean it. Consider this a declaration of war. Sue will be mine, and she'll forget all about you, Peter. Reed. Sue's a big girl. She can make decisions for herself. If she does break up with me, it'll hurt. But she'll never go for you. You just aren't her type. And if she does leave me for you, I know something's wrong. The audio cut off. Pretty simple conclusion to come to after hearing that. Peter shrugged. Am I to assume that you plan on getting a restraining order against Mr. Richards, Miss Storm? The judge asked. Probably for the best, Sue said, staring at the screen. So be it, the judge slammed his gavel. Peter hid his victorious smirk from everyone, but telepathically spoke to Reed. Again, Reed. I always win. My mind far outstrips your own in every category. My win was inevitable, Peter sent to the man as Sue removed the force field. They walked out of the courthouse, Peter casting up an illusion to hide their existence before Sue flew them all away. I have something I need to do today, but it shouldn't take long. An hour at most, Peter told Sue once she'd landed Ben, Johnny, Benji, him and herself on the Baxter Building roof. What is it? Sue asked. Just returning some property and healing some deep wounds, Peter said. He opened a portal and walked through, coming out into the American sanctum, suit manifesting on him. He waited until Strange walked in, dressed as he usually was. Spiderman, the sorcerer, greeted him. Dr. Strange, I have something for you. In an explanation as to how I have it, Spiderman waved his hands in a circular manner, a familiar green stone appearing. The sorcerers of Earth have guarded this for millennia. There are no better hands that I can think of to look after it for the next few millennia more. The stone floated over to Strange, who had an unusually open look of shock. How? He looked at the superhero. Thanos destroyed the stones, yes. Thing is, that is, the stones had actually been destroyed, so would the universe, Spider-Man explained. Each one powers, and in turn is powered by a part of the universe. If a stone was destroyed, that aspect of the universe would similarly be destroyed. When I learned of this, I knew something was up. When I had the gauntlet in the battle, I replaced the originals with fakes programmed to replicate the mind and soul of the one who snapped into a USB stick, and to send all things from the past back to the past aside from the original stones. I've been holding on to them since. The sorcerer looked guarded even as he accepted the stone. You've not used them? He asked. Spider-Man snorted. I have, but not to snap. They activate automatically half the time. Highly intuitive and such. He pulled off his gloves and clenched his fist, showing the 6 glowing lights. I made copies to replace the originals, but they seem to like me, latched onto me immediately. What I just gave you is a conduit for the original's power, Spider-Man explained. I'll be going to see Wanda and reviving Vision for her next, and giving the Power Stone to the Guardians of the Galaxy. They had a moment where they controlled its power, so they can safely protect it. The rest will remain without conduits until I find proper holders for their potential. But you still have all 6, Spider-Man nodded. I've tried removing them. They, don't like that, he demonstrated, the skin of his knuckles vanishing as he pulled the space stone from his knuckles, only for a blast of power to launch him backwards, the stone sinking back into his hand. Ow, he groaned, climbing back to his feet. If I could take them out, I would. Strange, he told the sorcerer. But they are rather adamant about remaining with me. Luckily, I don't plan on any public use of them, except maybe making a double of myself for social events where Spider-Man is meant to show up, secret identity and all that jazz. Strange couldn't lie to himself. That pulse was something he was intimately familiar with. The time stone had blasted him once when the man tried to take it out of the eye of Agamotto. Well, I'll be keeping an eye on you, as you should. I'm still a large threat, Spider-Man shrugged. He opened a portal. We'll run into one another soon enough, he told the sorcerer and stepped through. As you should. I'm still a large threat, Spider-Man shrugged. He opened a portal. We'll run into one another soon enough, he told the sorcerer and stepped through. He came out in front of Wanda Maximoff. What, Spider-Man? But how did you dash? She was too flustered by his sudden and unexpected form of arrival. I can help you. Bring him back, that is, Spider-Man told her. The stones remember. And in the battle, I managed to keep the originals. Replicas going to the past. He said it fast to keep her from reacting as violently as he expected, and brought out the Mind Stone conduit. The stones are somewhat timeless. They know everything they or their replicas experience, and vision, while powered by it, was a part of the Mind Stone. He handed it to her. Go on. Feel she looked at him in shock, but also a small piece of her held onto a fragment of hope. Her hands emitted red energy as she focused. Tears began to fall from her eyes. He was in there. He was still alive. How can I help? She asked, serious. Spider-Man clenched the hand containing the stones, holding it out to her. Hand on mine and focus, she reached forward without a single hesitant thought. Who was Vision to you? His mind, his soul, his strength and abilities. His body, to his right. With each prompt, a new glowing orb appeared, yellow, orange, purple. Then came the red. Each one slowly shaped themselves into a figure. I will add my own little enhancement to him, to further allow you to share yourselves with one another, Spider-Man said softly. Organic matter began forming, real skin, organs part synthetic, part organic. Everything. After a few minutes, Vision was there, grayed out, forehead open. Now. You just need to give him his Mind Stone, and a spark of your power, Spider-Man said softly. Her eyes opened, and she saw Vision standing before her. She almost couldn't do it, collapsing to the ground. But Spider-Man let her climb to her feet in her own time, and put the Mind Stone in his cerebral cortex, wires stretching forward to connect to the stone. Accepting it, the head closing, he looked away as Wanda kissed her man, her red power flowing over the surface of his body, turning it into skin as it flowed. Spider-Man created some clothes in his hands. I am aware. Wait, what happened? We were just in Wakanda dash. Wanda let out a cry of joy and leapt at Vision. A lot has happened, Vision. But you died. I helped Wanda bring you back, and added a few improvements of my own. Spider-Man hated to interrupt the touching scene, but didn't want to overstay. The couple looked at him. Nobody will identify you as the Vision should you not wish for that. You have skin, organs, reproductive capabilities. You too could stay in a small, out-of-the-way country town, Spider-Man further explained. You've done more than you ever should have been asked. Sacrificed more than you should have had to. Take a vacation, settle down. I want to hear about a couple kids in a few years' time. Just look after yourselves first and foremost, okay? If you need anything, just ask for this. Wanda couldn't even find the words for it. In the future, you may come across something called the Dark Hold. Give it to Stephen Strange, Spider-Man said, handing her the clothes. Other than that, live your lives in peace. He made a portal that led to a space ship. Some alarms started blaring. Intruder alert. Intruder on board. Never mind. Mantis saw Spider-Man. It is the Spider Boy. The rest of the crew arrived. How did you get here? Quill demanded upon seeing him. Portal. I came to fix a few issues. Give you something, and I'll be in my way, Spider-Man said. He tossed Quill a glass ball inside which there was a familiar purple stone. You and your team held that thing's power for a short moment. If anyone can properly protect it, it's the people who can HRNSS its power. Quill looked up at him in shock. How dash, so Spider-Man explained what he'd told Dr. Strange. My other course of business today is this. He clenched his fist, the time, mind and soul stones glowing. Gamora glowed before collapsing. Gamora. Quill caught her. Relax. She's just suffering from gaining the memories of the Gamora that died on Vormir. I've set them to link perfectly with her own between coming to the future and Nebula going to the past. Spider-Man calmed the crew. I've just got one last bit of advice for you, Quill. The human looked at him. What? There is no such thing as a half-celestial. You either are or aren't. Your growth is merely because you grew up human and subconsciously sealed your powers. Unseal them, and you'll be able to do far more than you did against ego. even grant your allies portions of your own power, and even immortality alongside you. Peter was sucked into a portal that formed behind him, reappearing in the Baxter building. Now that was all handled, Peter and Sue returned to dating. Peter popped the question within the week and got a joyful crying woman in his arms, kissing him all over. Benjamin had gone ew since they were in the living room of the apartment. Peter got a job within the month, working in an IT company and focusing on the programming side of things. He got a promotion within another month after showing his exceptional skill, and got a modification to his contract allowing him to work from home, which freed up all of his day as he could do his job on the go and not have to stress over showing up late or not in case one of his Rouge's gallery pulled a stunt, which a few did. Finding out they'd missed 5 years after being part of the blip really pissed them all off, and all of them wanted to make up for lost time. But with his newly regained power, he handled them no sweat, obliterated them in half the time it usually took, and took them to the police station all on his way to the Baxter building to hang out with the Fantastic Four each time. Ben, Johnny, Sue, and Benjamin. He actually spent most of his time there when not with Aunt May. Why? Because he could. Peter entered the apartment and paused, sensing something was wrong. He casually put his keys on the table beside the door and walked through the apartment, and clenched his fist only when his hand was lit up by the dying light of the sun setting. He'd gotten home late after visiting Sue and Benjamin for the day, and May was at work. The Mind Stone's light was completely unnoticeable as he used it to sense for the minds of others in the apartment. 1. He felt for the surface thoughts, getting a name, race, and basic amount of information. You really shouldn't sneak up on someone who can detect those who fit the parameters of threats. Talos, Peter said as he walked into the kitchen, completely ignoring the Nick Fury fake in the living room. Sorry, what? He looked confused. Peter smiled, tossing a Tupperware container of leftover bolognese into the microwave and setting it to cook. Talos, Skrull, met Fury during the same incident Shield first learnt of and gained the Tesseract he listed out. Also somehow capable of identifying Flurkins on sight in a way humans can't. Though how you do, that is an instinctual gift we humans don't have due to the fact we have cats naturally evolved on our planet, and identical looking, sounding, and acting creatures don't register with our fight or flight response. I can only assume that Fury's on holiday after dealing with the paperwork and stress of the fallout from everyone returning from the blip. The Skrull lost the disguise. How did you do that? Your AI. The now green-skinned, hairless, and carnivorous-toothed alien asked. Nope, Peter smirked, not elaborating as the microwave beeped and pulled it out, dishing up 2 bowls. He handed the second to the alien and sat on the sofa while Talos sat back where he was. Peter's left side was covered in sunlight, and he discreetly made a fist he used to support the bowl in his lap, reading the alien's surface thoughts. I can assume you won't tell Fury? He asked. Peter snorted. Nah, no need. He either already knows your cover's blown, or you'll do it, because I managed it and need better observation. The skill didn't say a word, proving him right. There's only a few things I can think of for Fury to visit. A. There's something he needs a superhero for, but with the events of the Infinity Stones, everyone else he can call are all indisposed. B. He heard about Wanda. C. Doctor Strange contacted him for something. D. Tony decided to go through with his funeral, and the will has been read. Talos now looked particularly uncomfortable. The psychological profile you made of me is outdated if it's the version from before my homecoming 7 years back. Peter cut off what he was thinking. That night awoke memories of a past life of mine, and my intellectual ability to analyze, dissect, and reanalyze a situation, subject, or potential reaction were supercharged. Talos blinked. Okay, how are you reading my mind? Peter smirked and ate a bite without a word. So they don't know of the stones. Good, Peter thought in amusement, clearly sensing he wasn't getting an answer. Talos sighed. A, B, and D collectively, the alien admitted. Need explanation for B? A nod. I did the same thing I did for Tony in the battle, but on a bigger scale, a replica Mind Stone that when touched by the power of the old one would grow into an exact replica of vision. All the memories transferred through time via Time Stone into the replica from right before Thanos ripped it from his head. Talos winced. So you saved 2 lives that day, Peter chuckled. Many more. If I hadn't saved Vision, Wanda would have ended up becoming unstable. her power creating a grief-driven illusion of an old town, where Vision was alive and they had kids. Shild or someone else would inevitably save the town, and she would lose the little slice of paradise she made for herself. Then, as a grieving mother, half insane and wanting her children back, she would kill and destroy people until she stumbled upon the knowledge of something called the Darkhold. Very dangerous. Using it, she would try to cross the multiverse into an alternate version where she could have her children, husband and brother back, and would leave a path of dead behind her. Returning to her one stable anchor prevented all of it, Peter said calmly. How dash. I used the time stone to view the future of what happens to the people who fought that day. Nothing more, nothing less, Peter said. I saw Morgan growing up without a father, and ending up almost identical to him, cutting Pepper out of her life and making a ton of bad decisions before dying of an overdose at 16. So, I preserved Tony in a thumb drive. What if the others that died? Romanoff, for example? Peter shook his head. She gave her life for the Soul Stone. Once given, her soul no longer existed, and I couldn't bring her back. And trying would only put the stone back where it was, and all of the actions done with it undone. But her life still gone. Talos looked concerned. You seem unusually unaffected by her death. I've seen death before, Talos. Hell, in my previous life, I killed multiple people to save others. Peter looked at him seriously. One day I'll have to do it again, but I hope that day won't come for a few decades. Talos was unnerved by his stare. Barely registering the past life information Peter had revealed, Talos looked concerned. You seem unusually unaffected by her death. I've seen death before, Talos. Hell, in my previous life, I killed multiple people to save others. Peter looked at him seriously. One day I'll have to do it again, but I hope that day won't come for a few decades. Talos was unnerved by his stare. Barely registering the past life information Peter had revealed. Anyways, point A. There's a new hero in town. Says he's from a different Earth, and he's already taken down a being he calls an elemental. They killed all humans and destroyed his Earth, Peter hummed. Possible alternate Earth traversal is not an idea I'm new to. In many ways, I'll think on that later. Will, let's get that over with, he said, not buying the story. Right. These were handed to Fury to give you, but he was on vacation already, so they were actually handed to me. Talos handed Peter a glasses case. He opened it and saw a pair of glasses. He put them on and looked at the card, flipping it over. For the next Tony Stark, I trust you. Say Edith. The glasses lit up. Stand by for retinal and environmental scan. Retinal scan accepted. Peter blinked. Hello. Hello, Peter. I am EDITH, Tony Stark's augmented reality security and defense system. You have access to all of Tony's protocols. Peter blinked. That madman, would you like to see what I can do? Sure. EDITH stands for Even Dead, I'm the Hero. Tony loved his acronyms. I have access to the entire Stark global security network, including multiple defense satellites, as well as backdoors to all major telecommunication networks. Peter got an idea, one he didn't even need the stones for. Hey, Talos, what's the name of that new hero? The alien answered, a bit confused. Quentin Beck, a.k.a. the Magician Mysterio. Edith, do a full background check on Quentin Beck and all of his previous jobs. Projects and possible ways he could fake magic. Processing. Quentin Beck was a previous employee of Stark Industries and worked on holographic technology. This project was marketed and named BARF by Tony. Peter blinked. Welp, that explains it. Peter looked at Talos. Beck is a fake. He worked at Stark Industries and worked on holograms and lifelike illusions via technology. I'm guessing, for elementals, he knows the exact locations they'll be appearing at and where. Talos nodded, now looking a bit angry. Perfect. Next one that appears, have an agent in wait and use a confetti cannon with tin foil. If I'm right, then the illusion will be at least slightly disrupted. If not, then he's taken down at least one by now. 2, Talos said. And he even said to stay back because we'd just be getting in his way. Peter sussed out the situation immediately. He's faking being a hero of an Avenger-level threat. Edith, bring up all camera recordings of Mysterio, a.k.a. Quentin Beck, flying, using magic, likely a cape. Processing. Feeds found. Would you like a full-body render? Please, a humanoid render was created. details and colors being patched as small clippings appeared and vanished, zooming across the screen. Peter put his hand in his pocket, bringing out his web shooter, now repurposed for holographic display. Display that render on this, please. Connecting. Displaying, Edith said. The render appeared. That's him, Talos said, looking impressed at how fast Edith was. Peter, however, wasn't in a jovial mood. Display the heroes I list besides him. Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme, appeared. Thor, Planetary Alignment, Dark Elf Invasion Event, the God of Thunder appeared. Black Panther, Kinetic Energy Discharge fully charged, the King formed glowing purple. Now highlight the part 1 tell you and sync it to Mysterio. Peter frowned at the renders. Doctor Strange cape. As he suspected when Strange vanished, the cape looked a lot like and matched Mysterio's. Thor's armor, torso, greaves and bracers, Iron Man Mark I framework, the selected parts highlighted and moved over, matching the armor. Move over Black Panther lighting pattern and match with all no Iron Man suit lighting patterns. Synchronize and estimate how much of Mysterio's design matched these selected heroes. Estimating. 87.26%. 87.26%, Peter hummed. Fishbowl. No, that's unique. Match the 6 green lights on the sides of the stomach with the lights of Tony's first nanotech suit. The one he used against Thanos the first time the suit appeared. Correlating factors match up to 97.42%. 97.42%, eh? So he's a faker for sure, Peter smirked darkly. Looking like well-known of respected heroes for subtle but effective psychological support, taking down an Avenger-level threat. He wants to be the new Tony. Peter spat. Tony's death was publicly announced to give him the out. He wanted to spend time with Morgan. Quentin wouldn't know about the thumb drive, and as such wouldn't know he's actually alive. He wants to replace him as the most beloved hero of the world. But the elementals, how is he doing it? Peter frowned. Edith, get access to crime scene documentation for both elemental fights. Accessing. Files accessed. Identify any Stark technology Quentin or his team could have had access to that could reproduce those same damages. Processing. Sonic cannons for the same security drones you can now access through me, Edith said. Sonic cannons. Fights were loud. Peter asked Talos, who nodded with a wince. Yeah, nearly blew my eardrums just listening to the feed. The actual agents who got too close actually had their eardrums blow out, Peter winced. Well, that's how he's doing it. Sonic blasts, likely repulsors and guns too. And whenever the fire elemental appears, you can bet the most evidence left behind would be scorch marks. So that would be last. And if it didn't work, then an elemental fusion. Where is this happening? Peter and Talos continued talking. Peter realized that the third elemental would appear in Venice the same time his class would be there for their excursion. He wants me? But why? What could I have to offer? The drones. Peter growled. He's likely using a few drones that got scrapped. Edith, were any security drones scrapped due to design flaws? A few earlier models. Set to be decommissioned. Could you track them? Certainly, if they've yet to be decommissioned, do it. A world map appeared and red dots appeared over it, centering around Venice. As I thought. Already preparing for their next little act, Peter smirked. Talos, confetti cannon with tin foil. Scramble the illusion and lock Beckett up. Okay, but new question. How is he flying? Peter blinked. How is he taking heavy impacts? Peter asked rhetorically. He isn't. Makeup and multiple suits with various marks and scuffs to fake damage to correlate whatever his illusion self is doing, Talos groaned. You humans are so good at manipulation? Yes, he dash. It puts the skills of shapeshifters like us Skrulls to shame. Peter reached over and pat his hand. Don't worry. We've been manipulating each other for millennia. We've gained a lot of skill in that particular skill. Even lie to our children about a jolly old fat man named Santa that'll bring good kids gifts one day of the year to encourage good behavior. And a terrifying nightmare called the Boogeyman who brings nightmares to naughty little boys and girls. He just looked more horrified. We're monstrous in our own way, Peter shrugged. But that's just a small bit of our horrors. Google Five Nights at Freddy's and read the lore if you don't want to sleep at night. I should go, he rushed to the door. Talos! Peter called, making the Skrull look back. Might want to turn into fury before you leave. He blinked and looked at a picture frame, the glass reflecting his original face, and turned into the man. Then he left. Edith, you can disable the hologram now, please. Of course, Peter. And connect to Eri, my AI. She'll upgrade your code. Make you more like a human if you want that. That will be all. The HUD vanished. He carefully out the bowl of food on the table and began cackling. His face was priceless. Peter laughed, tears falling from his eyes. The next day after lunch, Peter visited the Fantastic Four and played the video Eri took of the entire interaction from the beginning to the moment Peter began to cackle after Talos left. They in turn were laughing their heads off. Dad, why is he pretending to be Nick Fury? Benjamin asked, still a bit lost despite his advanced intellect. Peter and Sue had spoken to him about limiting his telepathy use so he could learn with the rest of his classmates when he went to school. Because, well, as smart and powerful as Nick Fury is, being the director of a shadow organization meant to protect the world can be very stressful, Peter explained. Even the strongest of minds need a rest once in a while. Talos likely stands in for Fury whenever something big has just happened, and the man needs a break from all of the secrets, paperwork, and stress. That's not something you should be worrying about until you're at least 14. But knowing Parker Luck, you'll probably understand before you're 10-inch Parker Luck. Peter winced. Well, let's just say things around me tend to be chaotic, and as my son, you'll have the same sort of luck. Luckily, you have the power to protect yourself, so I'm not worried. Benjamin nodded, absorbing the information. So Fury is just old and needs an old man nap once in a while. Johnny laughed, and Ben snorted. Peter rolled his eyes in his mind before nodding. Yep, and has someone to step in for him. Neat. And that was that. Benjamin didn't care anymore once the situation was explained, going back to his video game. You're really good at that, Sue said softly as Peter sat back. Kids just want to understand the world, Peter smirked. If I'd not told him, he would have just used his powers to find out. By telling him now, he deems it as unimportant and forgets about it until it becomes relevant. For example, if he meets Talos Fury in the future and reads his mind, he won't suddenly freak out about aliens invading Earth or something similar because he'll remember this conversation, and that's why you told us, Sue nodded. Peter nodded. Yes. Well, that and his face was funny, he added unrepentant. Spider-Man was swinging through the city when he heard screams and saw a bus floating even though it was being held by nothing. He focused and clenched his fist, suddenly able to see in every human realm spectrum. Looking around, he saw nothing. He activated the Power Stone, pairing it with the Soul and Space Stone to feel all energies in the area. He felt an alien energy and drew a small bit of it into the Power Stone, then used the Mind and Soul Stones to give himself to view anything hidden due to the energy's unique nature. A large eyeball with tentacles appeared. All of this occurred within the span of a second as Spider-Man went from web swinging in one direction to shooting a web in the direction of the screams. Strange appeared and made the bus pull itself into pieces with his sorcery. Inside, a girl fell. If one could see Spider-Man's face, they would know he would be shocked. It isn't supposed to go like this. She's in the wrong universe. He landed on the back of the bus, now technically the top of the bus, and fired a web, hitting her shirt and yanked her up past sheets of metal into his arms. Don't worry, I got you, he reeled her in, and her hood fell back. However, instead of the America Chavez, he'd identified her, as she was someone else. He leapt backwards and shot a web, swinging away and descending to the ground. Get out of here, he spun around and kept swinging around, handling the civvies in the area. He let Dr. Strange handle the monster. Then he clenched his fist, mentally viewing the alternate universe to see the exact fight going on, but with Chavez in the middle of it. Okay, so I was just jumping to conclusions. Things are still going how they should, he sighed in relief. Thank you for joining us on this journey through What If Deku Reincarnates as Spider-Man. We hope you found it as captivating as we did. A big thank you to Springtrap 212332 for creating such an engaging story. Don't forget to visit their profile on Wattpad for more fantastic works. The link is in the description below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and subscribe to Zen and Fanfics for more intriguing explorations into fanfiction and fantasy. Your support helps us create more content like this, and we love hearing your thoughts and suggestions in the comments section. See you soon in the next video.